and welcome to the new episode of the MinnMax Show podcast, place about games, friends, and getting better. I'm Ben Hansen, but thank God I'm not alone. I'm joined by one Jacob Keller.
Hello, I'm wearing a MinnMax shirt.
Oh, nice. I am too, man. Check it out, minnmax.com/merch. Also joined by Janet Garcia.
Hello.
And welcome, Kyle Hilliard.
Cake is a lie, my friend.
That's right. Don't you forget it, everybody.
Oh, God.
Yeah, check out the pre-show if you're a Backstage Pass supporter to understand what we're talking about. To understand that.
You won't understand Cake is a lie.
You won't get it.
It's from this game called Portal. It was pretty cool.
Oh, my God.
Anyways,
Some of the best indie games you've never heard of. Number one, Portal.
hey, on this episode of this gosh darn podcast, we're going to be talking about some games that are going to be coming out in the near future. So we thought, hey, we should come up with like a theme for it. So the theme for this episode is going to be us trying to predict the reviews for upcoming game releases. And it's like, this is a slippery slope because you can do like every big game, but I tried to keep it to like 2022's big games and then a couple of other lingering ones that Kyle and I want to talk about a little bit. And so we cheated a little bit on that end. But then we're going to...
I feel like it's too simple, and I kind of wish we had like, we've got a revolver with 6 bullets each, and we have to just shoot a 9.75 at a game.
Okay, all right, yeah, we can complicate this.
We need to make it needlessly convoluted in some way.
We can make this unlistenable.
Bird noises somehow? That might work too.
Oh, God, I forgot about all this stupid stuff. Okay, what if we gamify it?
If you die in this game, you die in real life.
That's right. That's right. If the review score is more than 1 point off, you have to take off a finger. No, but what if we make it so, look, this is a soft game, but what if it's just over or under? We think the game's going to overperform or underperform based on, does that make sense?
So we
can still need a number though.
Yeah.
Well, we don't have to. We can just say a number. I just thought it was. I think it's funny when MinnMax games have far more rules.
I did like when we had to shoot the fake gun into the void, but
we all like the void.
We'll figure next year. We'll have something more convoluted.
Yeah,
I forgot my gun had 6 bullets, so I only shot 5, and then
most importantly, for this episode of the podcast, we need to send out a disclaimer into the universe, into the multiverse, that we are not going to be talking about Dragon Ball: The Breakers on this episode, but it does break my heart. It comes out this Friday, and we don't have review codes yet. But this is that weird Dragon Ball asymmetrical 7v1 game that, let it be known that nobody on the crew was interested until I explained it, and then I think Leo gave a, okay. So that's the level of enthusiasm.
There's always one begrudging volunteer, and this time it's Leo Vader.
That's right. So maybe I can play that at some point.
I
with
tried
Leo.
to get in the very first beta. I eagerly raised my hand, and then I just couldn't play because it wasn't working.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. Yeah, that was in the meeting that you weren't at on Monday, but that's a fine. Well, I can play with you.
Sorry about that.
Well, honestly, though, I mean, you play. You like Dragon Ball, but you don't like playing online games. So where does that fall?
True.
Are you ever going to check this thing out realistically? If I was like, Kyle, let's play on a Wednesday evening, just you and I, buddy, buckle up. I don't think you'd do it.
No, but I'd try it on my own, though, on my own schedule at like 2 o'clock in the morning when everyone's asleep.
Well, wake me up, dude. I'll sleep with my phone just whenever you want to. Like, Kyle, I swear to God, have we...
Wake me up. I can't wake up. I'm not going to do the rest of it.
We've been here before. We've talked about this before. But Kyle...
Yeah, it comes up a lot. It's like one of the only jokes I have.
Oh, no, you got that cake joke. Anyways, like, when was the last time we played a game online together?
You and me?
Yeah.
I think it was Overwatch 1.
Oh, my God.
And my daughter was pretty young and really demanding my attention, and I could tell it was bothering you that I kept talking to my kid.
Has it been... That's right. I was furious.
I like how you turn this into Hansen's a bad person.
I take that back, actually. We played the Aliens game, the Left 4 Dead style Alien game.
Alien versus Predator Hunting Grounds.
No.
We played that too, actually.
Nope, this is Aliens Fire Team Elite.
Yeah, we played like the beta of that.
That's
right.
right.
We played like a round or 2.
And remember, you were like slapping your knee. You're having such a good time, man. You're like, man, we got to play more often. This is great. We should hang out. Remember?
Well, that's what you say after a bad date, you know? Like,
right.
Oh, man, I'll call you.
Yeah, I'll call you, Kyle. Yeah, I'm available nebulously in the future. Here we go.
When is it? Because I'm busy then.
Yeah.
All right, let's review some predictions and predict some reviews, y'all. Let's start out with a game that's coming out October 28th. a game that Jacob Geller is counting down the milliseconds until he can play. Bayonetta 3, ladies and gentlemen. The big Bayo's back. I'm trying to get a read. This is Game Informer's new cover story. I'm trying to get a read on where the community's at for hype with this. I know it's kind of like a Metal Gear Solid 5 situation where people are seemingly getting more and more upset that, Jennifer Hale's taking over the lead role? So like the actor swap is throwing some people off in the community?
I don't think, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal.
Okay.
I've seen like 3 people talking about it.
Okay, so it's not a Sam Fisher.
Right, that's what I'm trying to gauge, like how crucial it's going to be.
It's more like a Kratos.
Well, should I throw out a number?
Well, hold on. Some rules here real quick.
How does this work?
Yeah, are we going by
How does this whole
Metacritic?
thing operate? Yeah, Metacritic.
Metacritic. Okay.
What if this podcast was genuinely just us running down the release calendar and all it is, no discussion, it's just us saying a number and then moving on to the
Then I
next?
would explain why I picked my
obviously
number.
I thought Jacob was going to say more than just yell a number and disconnect from the call.
I think that's good podcasting.
The other rule question is, can I look up like the scores for previous Bayonettas?
I already did, so I'm going to say that's fair
Yeah,
game.
research
I
is
think that
welcome
makes-
as long as you don't slow down this show one Bayonetta iota.
Okay, well, give me like 3 minutes here of silence so I can look up some of these games.
I mean,
All right,
Bayonetta 1 is an 84, Bayonetta 2 is a 92 on Metacritic.
92!
92?
Yeah.
I mean, I believe like Edge gave Bayo 2 a 10 or something. Like that game
Yeah.
scored really highly.
All right, so what's your prediction, man, for Bayonetta 3?
I think 825. Like or an 82 on Metacritic. I think it's going to be.
Yep.
I think it's going to be lower because my guess is that the Bayonetta formula won't have evolved that much, and I will love it, but it will feel a little dated today. I think people will kind of be like, Bayonetta hasn't grown with the times, and whatever, they'll score it lower.
I think you're right. I'm going, to be very clear with these rules, I'm going under on my prediction, for where this thing's going to land. Where I think it's going to be solid. I think if you like stylish action games, character action games, I think you're going to have a great time. But I think it's going to be, number one, people are going to say, the Switch is getting a little long in the tooth. And then number two, like all the stuff about controlling giants and monsters and fighting, I feel like people are going to be like, this is kind of taken away from what we want from core Bayonetta action, where it's like, it's a novelty that isn't adding enough to the formula. And also it's going to be janky with the camera and whatnot.
I think the people who like it are really going to like it.
Yeah.
It's not going to be one of those like everyone has the same score, but I just think average is going to settle a little lower than the previous ones.
Yeah, I'll go 83 on Metacritic.
Good. I will say another additional prediction to add on to that, though. I think it will be the most financially successful Bayonetta. I think it will sell the most.
I mean, wasn't first one's multi-platform. I mean, that's tough to top, right?
Still pretty niche though.
All right.
Yeah, it will certainly do better than 2 because 2 is on Wii U. But I don't know. I have no idea how well the first one sold. I really have no clue.
I think it's like 1.35 million units, I'd say, roughly.
Oh, that's easy to beat then.
Yeah. All right. Do you all, I mean, I don't know if we need to give a number for each of us for all this.
Yeah.
How are you feeling,
Well, I
Janet?
do.
You want
I like
to?
over
That's like
under.
the stakes of it. Well, over under what? It's not like there's no basis for it.
Over the whoever offers the first number.
Yeah.
So we're going off Jacob's 82.
I think that's good. I think that's good.
I'll go like slightly above that, like 83, 84.
Okay.
Okay.
I think that's a perfect system.
Wait, Jacob, what was Jacob's number?
82.
Oh, I'm going over for sure. I think it's going to be, I want to say it's going to be like a 90 or a 91, but at the same time, I do think review scores generally tend to skew lower than they had in the previous time, just in general. I think it's a combination of like more people reviewing, reviewers also like refining, I think, how they go about reviews and maybe what they look for in a certain game or franchise or genre. So I want to say it's going to be like a 91, but it wouldn't surprise me if this is an 89. I do think that I would be a little surprised if it's lower than 89. I think it's going to be super high.
All right. I think it's going to be a wider player pool. I think for people reviewing it, there's going to be a lot of people that maybe aren't as in love with Bayonetta as everybody was that was reviewing Bayonetta 2. But that's Bayonetta 3 coming out October 28th. Before that, though, y'all, there is a game that's called Gotham Knights. It's coming out October 21st. Now, Janet, you have played how much of Gotham Knights here?
2.5 hours.
2.5 hours. All right. Based on that time, give us your prediction for just a number, just to kick this whole thing off.
76.
Oof. Okay. I think that sounds pretty damn close to what I would predict. I would go.
Right?
I would go over. This might be like a 79 or something. Kyle, where are you
I was
at?
thinking 78 was the other number I was tossing in my head. And that being said, it's, my kind of quick high level views on the game from that brief time. Again, preview slice, preview, not a review. The people on Twitter were like, this reviewer. I was like, whoa. I played like 2.5 hours of an open world game
It's all the
where they
same.
told me where to go. This is not a review.
Yeah.
They can't spell
It's
review without
fine.
preview, Janet.
That is true. They're like preview, review. I'm just shouting into the wind at this point. It felt like it was fine, right? It felt inoffensive. It had some cool charm to it with, I think, the characters, but ultimately I don't think it has what a game like this needs, which is some level of secret sauce usually found in the combat. Like I compare it a lot to Spider-Man, like in construction with like quests and in environment and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's no shade to Spider-Man. Like I think those games are fantastic, but those games are fantastic because it feels incredible to be Spider-Man and to play around with those kind of arena style combat. But I think the weakest part of the Spider-Man franchise is how uninspired a lot of the quest structure is. In that game and how repetitive that is. Now they get away with repetition because like it's just fun being Spider-Man.
Right.
This doesn't seem like it's going to be as fun being the Gotham Knights as it is as fun being Spider-Man. And I think what that's going to amount to is sort of, more middling reviews. If we want to, I think most people use, the 7 is shorthand for like, it's all right. It's good on a very technical level, but it just doesn't really have the extra sauce. But I don't know. It could also dip to 8 and it could also go to it's like a weird one. I don't know where it's going to
There's a couple
land.
things that are, so this big round of previews, where you got to play it, a bunch of other folks got to play it. The takeaway that was really shocking to me is everybody saying like, it's not Arkham combat. It's not Arkham combat. Please don't expect Arkham combat. Which is surprising that there's like some big meter in the lower left that's building up and all this stuff. Like Janet, was it drastically different from Arkham stuff? Have you played a lot of Arkham stuff?
I've only played a little bit of the Arkham stuff.
Okay.
I honestly didn't. One thing that a lot of things shocked me from this preview in terms of reactions to the preview, like the people who were like, there are numbers above the enemies' heads.
Right.
It's all pack it up, people. I get that we all look for different things, and some people seem really bothered and distracted by it. I'm like, I really didn't care about that. Like that didn't take away from anything for
and
me.
you can turn it off, they said in the menu and stuff. That really is freaking you out.
Yes, but like I just personally don't care, and I struggle to imagine caring about that. A million games have done that. I don't think it's weird. There is a meter to like build up to what's essentially kind of like a special ability that you have. But I actually do think in construction, like if you played the Arkham games, I'm not saying this is as good as that because it does feel different. Like there isn't the same weight to it as there was in Arkham, and the TLDR is I don't think the combat feels as good as it does in the Arkham games. That's just how I feel about it.
Totally.
But I think like I literally played Arkham. God, what's the one with the controversial driving of the Batmobile? Arkham Knight. Is it Arkham Knight? Okay. Arkham Knight. I played that the night before the preview event, and I'm like, it felt the same as like in terms of like sitting down to play it. You know how to play it. It's like, okay, you're punching, you're dodging, like.
Right.
It's constructed. That doesn't mean it's as good or that it's the same or 1-to-1, but I feel like if you've only played one game in your life and you pick up this one, you will know how to play it. Like, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I do wonder for the folks saying it's so different how much they played as those other characters in the Arkham games, because you can play as Robin, you can play as Nightwing, you can play as Red Hood. They're all like side.
I think it's just like you're not focusing on counters and stuff because it has like, this is the way I think it was on the Game Informer Show podcast where they talked about this, where because they have like more of an RPG progression, it's like you need to be doing more damage. Whereas in Batman, that lack of like an RPG progression means that like, oh, you can kick ass if you're just that good with the timing and the combat and everything. Whereas like you're not going to get as many one-hit kills or knockouts and stuff in this. But
it's not as refined.
Yeah,
I feel like, and that's what makes it the general like feeling of light genericism in everything outside of story and character, which granted, I think story and character will carry this game. And that was what I was most into about it. But that's why I kind of land at like that 76, 78. that's just what I feel like it'll shake out to.
Yeah. How do you feel now about your hot viral tweet where you tweeted about a battle in the game where they play a cover of Livin' La Vida Loca over it? Congratulations, by the way, tearing up Twitter. Nobody tweets out clips of Livin' La Vida Loca like you. You're truly living La Vida Loca online.
How do I feel about it? I wish I worded it slightly differently, just to add a little bit more like context or layers to it. But at the end of the day, like I stand by what I said. I found it to be cheesy and bad, and I was genuinely like my jaw literally did drop. I had a mask on, so no one noticed, but I found it jarring, and I knew, and like another layer that I kind of added in follow-up tweets, even when I first posted it, was yes, I'm sure some gamers will see this and be like, what are you talking about? I think this is awesome and epic. Again, we all come to games with different opinions and different things. My opinion is that it's cheesy and kind of bad. And it's funny because I feel like this always happens with like my clips. Like I didn't get attributed to it because it wasn't like my review or whatever, but I gave our like video people the clip of Deacon St. John's wedding where it's like ride me like your motorcycle that also went viral. So I'm like, I just catch these really cheesy moments and then people just latch onto them. But yeah, like I don't know. It's rough because like you hate to see like a game get like dragged to all hell, but at the same time, like I just showed what the game looked like and people had a negative response. So look, that is what it is.
We don't need to get bogged down into too much debate about one song in this game, but I was in the camp of like, I was surprised everybody was like, shame. It's like, is the fight more fun if they're playing Livin' La Vida Loca in the background? In my mind, yes, is at least more memorable or more interesting. So go ahead, throw it in there. You're not like ruining the sanctity of Gotham Knights' world in my mind, but maybe I don't take Batman that seriously.
So ready to dunk on this game.
Yes.
And like, I feel for that. But at the same time, like, again, my job's not to be like, I don't know, the arbiter of niceness on the internet. Like I'm here to give my take, and that was my opinion. I will say, I'm like, even though I didn't play like that well in that clip, I'm like, I'm glad I didn't play worse because this is the only clip I had, and I'm like, oh my god. But you know, I also like, I don't know, I had the game for 2 hours, and I'm not the most talented combat person in the world.
You're fine. No one's judging you.
That's not true, but I also don't care if people will judge me on it because that's like, you know, I don't know. I'm an average player, but I'm a great critic, so that's all that really matters.
There we go.
To me, at least.
Hey, October 28th, same day, Call of Duty Modern Warfare.
Hold on,
2.
I want to at least say that I'm going to go optimistic, and I'm going to go over for Janet's number.
All right.
Okay. I'm going to go like mid-8s.
All right.
I think that's
mid-8s.
I'm being very optimistic here.
Jesus Christ. All right. Noted.
And I'm saying that as someone who hasn't put hands on it, and I'm just looking at people's preview coverage and like reading about it. Like, I'm excited for it, man. I want to see Court of Owls. Like, I think the story could be really interesting. I hope. Fingers crossed. We'll see.
Kyle, you are truly living La Vida Loca today, buddy. All right, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, October 28th, that same day. What a weird day. This is one that I was surprised. Jacob Kelly, you're like, yeah, I'm going to play that. Hell yeah.
I mean, it's like I always think the COD campaigns are interesting.
Yeah.
You know, usually I don't. In these days, it's not pay $70 for a game interesting. But if it's, does anyone want a code? Yeah, me.
Yeah. So did you play Vanguard?
No.
Okay. All right. That's fair.
Well, follow up. Did anybody play Vanguard?
On Earth.
It was the best-selling game last year, so I assume somebody
is that,
on
wait,
Earth.
that's the World War II one?
Yeah, the second
right?
World War II one, yeah.
I heard there was some interesting Jew stuff in that game, so I almost did, but I did not. You know, that it's about World War II, and so that it comes up.
Yeah, interesting. Now, as a Jewish lad yourself, that probably
Oh,
would
yeah,
help
well, I don't know.
contextually.
Every Call of Duty for the past 20 years has gotten like a 92, so 92.
Wait, really? Have they reviewed
What?
that highly? No.
No, it has not. Vanguard
Maybe I'm just
73.
thinking about the Game Informer reviews.
Yes.
Yeah.
Has it ever
Exactly.
scored below a 9.5?
It doesn't go that well.
I would not definitely lean on Game
I mean-
Informer as the main
How
one people
dare
generally
you?
play.
How dare you?
Like Modern Warfare, the new one, scored 80. Okay,
Yeah.
they're lower than I
like,
thought.
They score more around what like FIFA, Madden, like those kind of
Yeah.
titles. Like that's generally where they live.
I'm surprised because, yeah, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, like the reboot from 2019, was the best received Call of Duty in a long time, like 10 years? I'm trying to think. It might be. But still, like, yeah, Metacritic has it like 80 or 81, which is shockingly low to me. Maybe like that game just got better and better after the review season or something.
I mean, like this is the Metascore thing of like Call of Duty Black Ops 3, which I feel like everyone agreed was pretty bad, has an 81, which is one higher than Modern Warfare. So it's like they're meaningless. This game that we're playing, it's based on rules that are made up and don't matter.
Hey,
but
this is podcasting about games. Of course it matters.
That being said, I still think this one will do. I think it's going to get like an 85. I think that the things that people liked about Modern Warfare 2019 will be present and better here. You know, like I don't know. That's if we're just predicting review scores. That's what I think.
I also think we're coming off a down year for Call of Duty. I don't think Vanguard was particularly liked, on the spectrum of Call of Duty comparisons. And I think like to go from that to a remake of like what many consider to be,
well,
like
to be fair, it's not a remake.
It's not a remake.
It's its own thing.
But it's still sort of still drafting off arguably the best Call of Duty, or perceived to be by many to be the best Call of Duty.
Yeah. Can someone clarify then what is this game in the context of the history of the franchise?
It's just a different like the stories of Modern Warfare and Modern Warfare 2 new ones are not related, except that it has some of the same characters.
It's a confusing name, but 2019 was the reboot of Modern Warfare, which took some characters and stuff like that, and maybe some larger.
But it's like
themes.
it's not, the story is not the same. No. They don't have a connection to each other.
Yeah,
there will probably be some callbacks and stuff like you'll probably escape a prison by getting pulled from the ceiling and stuff like that. Like,
the confusing thing is like the level they've shown, like infiltrating the boat. It's like that's a callback and reference to a level from Modern Warfare 1. And so it's it seems confusing, but I'm sure there'll be something. I mean, the characters alone, I'm sure they'll introduce the same amount or something. But I think this is going to do better than people expect. I mean, I still have faith, I guess, in Infinity Ward after 2019's Call of Duty, so we'll see how that goes. Janet, are you going, what's the number, Jacob, by the way? 92?
Oh no, I'll say 85.
85. Janet, yeah.
Under. Definitely under. I think 78 would be my guess. I think 82 would be the highest it goes.
Yeah, I think it's under, but I still think people will be impressed that it's better than they expect, which is a weird.
Well, I think people will enjoy. I mean, I do think Vanguard, like to Kyle's point, was a down year. I think that was an anomaly for where no one really seemed to be feeling it. Even the critics that cover that game heavily didn't seem as into. Yeah. Any of the aspects, really. I think this will be a return to form in terms of what enormous scores, which is high 70, low 8. Yeah. So.
And Kyle, I assume you're as over as all hell.
No, I'm under, but only by a little bit. Like I'm thinking like 80 between like 83 and 87. All
right, let's get to the good stuff, man. Let's really have some fun. We're spin dashing away with Sonic Frontiers, everybody. November 8th.
What do we even base this on?
Sarah, she's calling in. She says it's going to get a 10.
Was it Sonic Forces? Was that the last 3D Sonic?
Yes, the one with like the guerrilla rebellion vibes, whatever the hell's going on.
The Sonic Sonas?
Yeah.
Every Sonic game is a game about personas.
Yeah,
I think.
True. Okay. All right, Kyle, what's it?
That Metascore? You have that one
in my video essay. Oh gosh, the Sonic Forces. Well, I see different platforms. It hovers between a 56 and a 62, depending on the platforms.
It's like a 57 for PS4.
Which also, I don't remember people hating it that much.
People just didn't talk about it.
Like it was
the ultimate form of it.
There's always going to be people very loud who like Sonic no matter what, and then quietly the review scores are going to be pretty rough.
Yeah. I think this one is going to. I think we have to bump it up just because I do think it looks nice, and I think that graphics get like kind of disproportionately weigh on reviews. Where I think I feel like it's just people are going to be like, well, at least Sonic has really shown us that it's capable of making a AAA platform game because it like looks good.
I mean, that said, the Switch version I think is going to get dinged hard for looking like trash.
Oh, okay. I'm not predicting the Switch.
I understand that. I'm going to put
like the general one.
I'm going to put my prediction at 67 for Sonic Forces.
That's so high.
All right. So is everyone below?
Have you seen game scores?
No, okay.
It's
well,
like
yeah.
if something gets a 5, it's like the worst game on earth. Like that's no game has gone below a 5 ever.
I think. I mean, it's weird. I haven't played it yet. I know some people that have played it, and they said it feels empty and tech demo-y.
Yeah.
Which I don't know how that's gonna land at the full price. What was your 67?
Yes, I think so.
I'm gonna go under and say 64.
I'm gonna say flat 60.
Flat 60.
I could
I'm
also see
going
this
high.
surprising everyone is like 72 or something. But I
That's
don't know.
literally that is what I was going to say. You know, maybe just to be a contrarian, but I think it's going to be 72. I think people are going to say like, there's not a lot in it, but it's like it's fun to run around as Sonic, and the world looks nice, and that will earn it a 72.
Yeah, it's gonna be a wild
For what
ride.
it's worth, like it is the most I've been excited about a Sonic game since Sonic 2000.
But don't you think that might work against it in a way? I do feel like there are people like you that will be reviewing this game that are like, I like Breath of the Wild. I'm kind of excited based on some of those trailers, and now I'm extra disappointed that, it turns out it's a game made by, no offense to the wonderful developers, but modern Sonic team, where it's like, okay, it's a pretty small team overall. I don't think...
I'm excited about it, like the idea of it and what I've seen. It's like, okay, I like the idea of running long distances as Sonic. Like that's a cool idea. Whether that translates into like a fun game.
Marathon Sonic,
yeah. We'll see.
All right, God of War Ragnarok, everybody. Coming out November 9th.
Keep in mind that if in this section, if we say anything lower than a 99, we're going to get a lot of hate mail, but that's okay, and that's our job as journalists.
And that's why it's 99. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet is coming out November 18th.
We're just moving on, huh?
No, I kid and I joke and I joss around. Kyle, what's your number?
So God of War got a 94. I'm going to say 89.
Kyle,
That's a good guess.
I was
It's gonna be
exactly going
great.
to say 89. Yep.
It's going to be a fantastic game, but it's not going to live up to the excitement of the first one because it's always tough to live up to something that feels brand new with a sequel.
Yep. I'm not going above or below. I'm exactly 89 as well. Jacob, what are you thinking?
This one's interesting because, like, I think I'm going to like it more because I didn't like the first one that much. But it's a good, it's like, keeping in mind that, the first one is held in such high esteem. I think I'll say 91. So over Kyle a little bit.
Yeah. 91. Yeah, I think it's going to be a situation where it's going to be a great game. It'll be in a lot of discussions for Game of the Year. I think it's going to be real tough competition with Elden Ring and whatnot. But at the same time, I think that feeling of, okay, even though the story is great and is climactic, like it feels very familiar. We're going to be going around to the realms. We're probably going to be rotating the thing to go to the different realms and all that stuff. And there's going to be this weird feeling.
Correct me if I'm incorrect here, but like I felt like the reason that God of War 1 was the greatest game of all time was because of people's reaction to the story, right? Like it wasn't like they felt like the third person melee combat was so fun.
I think it was everything. I think the story was the secret sauce, but I think it had sauce everywhere. Like it was saucy as hell. Like the combat is incredible. I mean, I think people adored the combat, and like that is definitely, I think the first thing that resonated with me when I played God of War 2018 back in 2018 was the feel of the combat combined with the one shot. I think was also a big angle for people where it just felt so like you're immersed in this epic tale. That's
until you pause and have to change your chest armor.
All right. Oh, Mr. Pause here. No, I hear you.
It's like
I like the chest armor, but I
feel like
if the game.
if the story is as good or better and the gameplay is the same, to me it feels like people will rate it the same or better because it's like when I hear people talk about that game, it's like God of War changed game storytelling, and it's like it's because they care about Kratos and Atreus, not because they liked chopping things up.
I do think the story is probably, to your credit, the number one thing that people comment on holistically, even though I think people did like the gameplay, but the gameplay is also what gets the most, I think, criticism in terms of like the lack of enemy variety, the like gaminess of some of the things. Though I like getting on a giant thing and like using it to kill other things. I just always like that. I'm going over and I'm giving this a 92.
I'm gonna just cut off everybody at the pass so nobody can write in about missed joke opportunities. I want to say Kratosisms. I just want to lob it out there just so nobody can write in next week about it.
Wait,
Kyle?
what are you drafting off of?
What are you drafting?
Criticisms.
Yeah, she
But
said
it's about
criticisms.
a game that has Kratos in it. So
that.
it's 92. Yeah, Crowboy in the Chest saying 94. The last one got 94, and historically, even when the next game is
Yep.
better, it's always lower. It just is. Like Last of Us has, I think it's the same thing with Last of Us. It's like 94 to 92 or something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm predicting the same thing will happen here, where it's going to be 92, maybe
right.
a 91, but I'm going 92.
All right. All right. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. This old song and dance. Here we go. This is November 18th when this thing's coming out. Yeah, what is our dear friend Arceus doing?
83.
Really?
Yeah.
I think this
really?
is
Wow.
Really surprised or really,
I am
I guess
surprised.
surprised either way, right?
I am surprised. I would think that would be a little bit higher based on how much
I'm
I enjoy
surprised because
Arceus at
Sword and
least.
Shield is 80. I kind of thought Arceus would get a lower review just 'cause
Really?
it was experimental. I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm just kind of like, that's kind of what I would have assumed having not looked at the numbers.
Yeah. All right, Jan, what do you think for Metacritic for this thing?
This is really tough. I definitely think it's going to be in the 80s. I guess if I had to put a number on it, I'm going to say, oh gosh, it's so tough. This is incredibly difficult. I want to say, I want to say 83 also. In my
It's tempting.
rationale, thinking of Sword and Shield, I do think Sword and Shield got dragged because there was a lot of contentiousness around everything related to that game. How it looked, how it ran, the fact that they said, oh, we're not putting all the Pokemon because we're going to make this the best game ever. And people were like, it's not the best game ever. So where are my Pokemon? And it had so much heat around it that, and I'm not saying that skewed the reviews necessarily, but I think people were ready to push back on it a little bit, and I think that score kind of reflects that. Arceus, I think, got the 83 because of the ambition. This game is going to lack the ambition that Arceus had, and I wonder if when we split the difference between ambition and tradition, where does that land critically? And so I'm going to guess it ends up landing the same spot. I want to say 85 because I feel like it'll be better than Arceus, but I think people will be like, you know what I miss? Arceus.
Yep.
We don't
Yep.
walk through empty fields anymore, and I think that'll hurt it.
I really
in that
do
sense.
think, yeah, there's going to be the double whammy of people saying that, like, oh, it doesn't feel as fresh as Arceus did. That was the one that really changed up the formula. Even though they're adding new stuff here, and obviously you have the gyms, you have different paths and stuff like that, we kind of miss a bold new
Crafting
take.
TMs, like,
And then also on top of that, I think people are going to miss like the alpha Pokemon from Arceus, where it's like, oh, Arceus
Yeah.
had like a weird sense of like danger in a Pokemon game, which was very specific to that setting. And so
but this has a motorcycle.
yeah,
so.
I'm putting this at like an 81. And I think the tech stuff is going to ding it a lot. If they're getting more ambitious with the solid open world this time around, I think that frame rate is going right in the garbage. And a lot of people are going to ding it for it. Kyle, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm with you. Like 81, 82, better than Sword and Shield, because I think, unlike you, I'm optimistic about the sort of technical performance in that, like, they will take lessons learned from Sword and Shield and apply them here, and like it'll be like a, you know, the step up, you know, from Sword and Shield. But yeah, that Arceus comparison will be interesting, because I think it will be a lot of like, kind of. I didn't really want to go back.
Yeah.
You know?
Your lack of enthusiasm for this game is surprising, Kyle.
Pokemon's weird because, like, at Game Informer, I was Mr. Pokemon. Like, I did the Pokemon coverage, right? But I've
Please,
never,
Mr. Pokemon's my father.
yeah. But I've never been like the world's #1 Pokemon fan. Like when I wasn't obligated to play them, I haven't been super excited. I played like an hour of Arceus. I played like a few hours of Sword. Like, I'm not like over the moon for the series. And now I just kind of am like a passive observer. Now the fun thing for me now is to watch my kid play it more than to play it myself.
So that gets a 10. Jacob Keller,
My daughter's excitement gets a 10 out of 10.
That's it. So 83.
She's not
Game
watching
sucks.
trailers. She doesn't want any spoilers.
I
She's
get it.
very excited.
I get it. Jacob going over or under for, was it 83? Is that the first number lobbed out?
Yeah.
Gun to my head, I could not tell you a single thing about this game.
So you're saying
So
you're dying
under
right
Interesting.
That's
Bold
honestly
take.
way safer than over. I wouldn't go over. I don't think. Yeah.
Bold take. All right. Hey, Kyle, you played a game that's not coming out in 2022, but it's coming out 2023. I would say it's coming out like February 23rd, 2023, which is
I think you nailed it.
Wild Hearts. Not to be confused with Sayonara Wild Hearts, but this is a game that was revealed very recently, and it's, God, quick turnaround. It's pretty wild. But this is an EA published game.
Hearts.
What's that?
You said it's pretty wild, and I said hearts.
Oh, thank you. That's right. Electronic Hearts.
Pause for that.
But EA is publishing this thing, and it's developed by Omega Force, our favorite Dynasty Warriors team. And it's full-on Monster Hunter. What if the Dynasty Warriors team made a Monster Hunter game? Is that too simplistic, Kyle?
No, I think that's accurate. They did do, which I learned through sort of talking to them and seeing their sort of presentation playing the game, that they did do a PSP Vita style Monster Hunter game called Tukiden, which I totally passed me by. Never played it or really saw much conversation about it.
Weird.
But yeah, Wild Hearts is like a totally original thing, because that was, after I learned of that game's existence, I was like, oh, so is this like a sequel? And they're like, and they said no, it's a totally original universe. But it
can't be compared to anything.
Can't be. I did ask them about Monster Hunter, and they're like, well, we don't like to comment on other companies' games. But yeah. I asked them about Sayonara Wild Hearts too, and they said that they hope that when you think Wild Hearts, you think of their game. Moving
Wow.
Take that indie down.
But Wild Hearts never died. Did they not play the game?
Come on.
Right.
That's actually their tagline.
Fake
It's pretty
gamer.
messed up.
So
I mean, yeah, so it very, very Monster Hunter. Feels like Monster Hunter, structured like Monster Hunter. You're going after giant monsters. But the big things that separate Wild Hearts, which I think are exciting, the sort of the smaller one is the design of the monsters are very different and unique. They look they look more like Colossi in that they're sort of like built into the sort of environment, and
I'm watching the trailer right now, and it looks like they're fighting the boar from Princess Mononoke.
Yes,
basically.
exactly. Yeah, it's more like
a lot of
mythologically
Princess Mononoke in it,
based,
too.
right? That's the whole idea.
Yeah. So and they had this cool teaser in the beginning I think they had in some of the screenshots, but it's like this gigantic mountain-sized one. Sort of you think it looks like a mountain, and it gets up and starts walking. It's very cool. And then, but the other thing, which I was I played it for about 2-3 hours or so.
Wow.
And the thing that I was like, oh, this is actually cool, and I like this, and it does make it feel, it kind of gives it something unique compared to Monster Hunter, is you have this system, the Karakuya, I think it's called. It's been a couple days now since I played it.
You nailed it.
Where it almost feels like Fortnite building to a certain degree, where you can quickly sort of build these structures, and the one that I was using a lot, because it's the tutorial sort of area, was I would quickly build these boxes, and you can kind of scamper up them really quick, and it launches you off, and it gives you a really powerful downward strike. And then you can and the way it works is you kind of just build those as you need them. So you pop them up and you jump and you attack. And then another thing I threw down was like a Sonic style bounce pad on the ground.
Oh,
which
weird.
it was charging, a monster would be charging at me. A kimono, and I would throw down the bounce pad and almost use it as a dodge. I would throw it down as it was running at me, and it would shoot me out of the way, or I could throw it down and jump on it, and it would fire me into the monster, and that would be a really powerful attack.
It's a fascinating idea of after the success of Monster Hunter World, and not to compare everything to it, but after that wild success, that EA is okay, who can we get to make a Monster Hunter style game? Maybe this team was really passionate about doing it, and they just wanted to combine that with some aspects of the building from Fortnite. Where it's how can this new game not succeed? But
I want to call out one of these things that you can build. Looks like a Roadrunner, Wile E. Coyote, just big hammer. That's a big wooden hammer that goes wham.
Oh, that looks good.
You can also just put
very
up
funny.
walls for them to run into if they're charging at you. You can just put up a barrier wall, and it stuns them. And then that stuff also can be used outside of combat, where you can build Death Stranding style shortcuts, everywhere, and stuff like that. And then when people join your game, and you guys can all use that stuff. You can all make the structures, and they'll just stay there after the fight. They'll leave your game, and all the stuff that they built will just stay there. So that's the sort of thing that I think makes it feel unique, and it was fun to use. Like I liked it. I was impressed by it.
Yeah. It's wild to see EA putting so much money behind this. Isn't it? Like it's crazy to see like the budget it seems very big, and like it's continuing EA's streak of like their originals games. They've made some really good bets so far with like Knockout City and It Takes Two, right? And Lost in Random, all those games.
If I looked at it, like I would never have guessed EA was involved in any way. Like, so I that's a compliment to them to like trying these different things and using the original.
It doesn't seem at all like EA at all.
It looks so good. I wouldn't even think you made this.
Yes,
because
exactly.
I hate you.
Exactly.
This doesn't look like FIFA. What is this? There's monsters.
Yeah,
here?
they make other things. This game looks cool. What do you think the approachability or lack thereof is for people who like maybe tried Monster Hunter and thought it was like a little overwhelming? Like, did this feel a little bit more approachable, or does it feel like it's only going to be for fans of that style?
So I would consider myself that person because I don't really like Monster Hunter, and I don't know if this is changing my mind about the genre necessarily, but that building stuff is cool and it makes you feel more powerful. Because that's kind of the thing that bums me out about Monster Hunter sometimes is like the fights take so long and it feels like you're not doing that much damage and you're kind of just doing the same attacks over and over. And you know, maybe the response to that is like you're playing it wrong. Like you need to be more varied and try different things.
I mean, it's like, as someone who played, 90 hours of Monster Hunter World, it's like the fights take, 20 minutes. Like that's just how that game works.
And they still do here, but like to have that sort of that instance of like, oh, I built that structure. That's not something I usually do in Monster Hunter, and it actually paid off in a cool animation and doing a ton of damage. That makes me like excited about it. I think it's a cool thing.
Yeah. So your Metacritic prediction for Wild Hearts, Kyle?
So my Metacritic prediction, I'm gonna say like 79.
Ooh.
Because it's like the first shot. Like I'm kind of going off like there's gonna be technical hiccups, right? That are gonna drag it down. And it's kind of an experimental thing, and I don't know if it's gonna work, in the long term with multiple players and all that stuff. So I'm kind of like hedging my bets like low, kind of. Like the reviews will be like, there's really interesting ideas here. They don't fully work. The sequel's going to be killer is kind of what I wonder.
I feel like it's also, it's like Monster Hunter has had 20 years to iterate on being Monster Hunter. And if they're like, especially if outlets have kind of their Monster Hunter reviewer reviewing this, my guess is that like the kind of complexity of Monster Hunter has like 18 different weapons that all take dozens of hours to master, and it seems like it would be hard to fit that in a first game in a series.
Yeah, like that comparison is going to be unavoidable, even if it's not like actively written about in a review. If they have the Monster Hunter person reviewing the game, which frankly they should, like they're going to be extra critical.
Yeah. Did I hallucinate that Capcom announced the successor to Monster Hunter World? Did this happen? I can't find anything about it on the internet. This happened, right? And it wasn't called World 2. It was like, was it a leak? Or it was like Frontiers or something? Why is this not on the internet?
That's familiar.
Help me out, Backstage Pass. Did this happen? Not Rise, not Monster Hunter Rise. It's part of the NVIDIA leaks.
Yeah,
oh, interesting. Okay, yeah. Please look into that for me. Look into that leak. Tell us if it's real. All right. Wild Hearts, everybody. Hey,
check out my preview on GameSpot.
Oh,
yeah.
About it, videos, all that stuff.
Oh, really?
I'm going over. I think it'll be like an 82.
I think I'm going over too. Kyle, you got to believe in yourself. Believe in your preview, man.
The only person who's played it, we're all saying you're too negative on it.
Yeah, come on, man. I played a Capcom game. All right. Over the weekend, they had a technical test, closed beta test for Street Fighter 6. Which I jumped to. Did anybody else jump into that or see anything about it?
Was it open?
I saw stuff about it. People are saying it's like, people are like really hot on this thing. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah.
Someone said it was like maybe the best fighting game they've ever played. And they play like a lot of fighting games. So I was like, oh my God, this is going to be critically wild then. If true. Wild if true.
Yeah, huge if true. Yeah, I'm definitely no fighting game expert by any means. And like Street Fighter 2 is my favorite, but I'm not really into the series in a big way. Marvel vs. Capcom, however. But Street Fighter 6, jumped into it over the weekend, and I got like my fight sticks out, and I was so excited. But it's the point of this beta was to focus on the Battle Hub, which is kind of like the social center, which was a great catch then when I jumped in there with my fight sticks. And it's like, okay, now you just have to like navigate this world. And it's like, okay, well, I need a controller for like the second camera. Otherwise, I'm just like running around with the fight sticks, and it's not exactly ideal for that scenario. But this is their kind of social space that they're really testing out. And it's cool. The game really impressed me. I had a great time playing it. But the social space, it's like, you'll go in there, and they got some light jazz playing. You create a character, like a crazy, robust creator character thing. Then you can roll into that space, and they have just like, arcade cabinets everywhere, and you actually just like sit down at it and wait for another player to come up. And that's how you trigger a fight in that space. Or else you can go around and buy clothes. You can like go DJ a set at the top of this battle hub. So you can just go up there and like, it changes the music, I assume just for you. But I sat up there for like 10 minutes, like doing my cool DJ moves. And like it was expecting like a crowd would form in front of me, and nobody came to party in front of me. So they must have still been hearing just the cool jazz music.
People are filtering it in and out.
Yeah, it's one of those.
You kept throwing up Britney Spears' Toxic.
I know.
And System of a Down's Toxicity over back to back to back and winking, and people just weren't getting it.
Is it not clever enough for you? Come on, everybody. But then jumping into the game, I thought it was great. I was so excited to have the Fight 6, and I was like, okay, this is going to be great. It's going to be classic Street Fighter. And then I forgot that they have like the whole modern control scheme. So it's like, oh, I need to go back in and like make sure and remap this to make sure that's actually classic Street Fighter arcade buttons to actually enjoy using this stick in the proper way and whatnot. But yeah, it was good. It kept like defaulting me to Luke as like one of the big new character, although I guess he was in 5, right? So that was frustrating to constantly have to go back in and jump to a different character. But it was a little bit heavier and slower than I expected, but it looked so damn good. And also just like having different things you can do in that battle hub. It was impressive. We're like, okay, in this area we have extreme battles that they call it. So they can just rotate through like these novelty things. And during this beta, it's like, okay, instead of classic health bars, you're going to have like a seesawing health bar. So if you do more damage, it'll get pushed in their direction, yada, yada, yada. And then also on top of that, we have Mets from Mega Man, and they're just going to be thrown into the middle of the fight. And then you can like hit them and then go flying into the enemy and explode. So it's just like weird, wacky novelty options. Then they also, this is so smart, they have an area of that hub where they just have a bunch of old arcade cabinets, and you can go up and play those. And so, like, what was it? What was the game that they had now? Magic Sword from 1990, some arcade game from Capcom I had never played before. But I think it's like a really interesting way to like, any social living game like this as they want it to be, right? They are always looking for a reason to draw new people in, have things change, and to be able to like rotate through just basically an infinite amount of old Capcom arcade games and have like leaderboard challenges and stuff in there. I think it's a really smart idea. So yeah, I was really impressed by it. They're big on, hopefully they'll tone this down, because they are just constantly over this PA system announcing what's happening to like the featured player that's in the whole social hub at that space. It's like the featured player has lost. The featured player is on a winning streak. They're on a winning streak. So it's like this constant chatter letting you know how this featured player is doing. But I got my butt kicked by absolutely everybody, but I had a great time. I recommend
That's
it.
all that matters.
Did anything about the combat like stand out to you as like a sort of a not a big fighting game person of like, oh, this feels better or different, or this feels like Street Fighter kind of?
Yeah. The big moves look amazing. You've probably seen it. It's kind of like the graffiti art style and whatnot. Those look amazing. And the fact that that's just one button press away, everybody. It feels a little bit more like Dragon Ball FighterZ, Kyle, where it's like press one button, you'll do some really, really cool stuff. So it's nice having that as an option, and then as well having the depth there and whatnot. But I am curious to see, like what the hardcore fighting game community is like now that this beta got into more hands, because, Imran Khan was on here saying that it might be Game of the Year 2023. And I mean, I was impressed by it. It exceeded my expectations based on, jumping into the beta at least. So I'm going to put this at 91 with my Metacritic prediction for Street Fighter 6.
Go over. It's like 94.
Jeez.
Holy crap,
Fighting
Kyle.
games
No idea.
they're so weird, because it's like, again, they're only reviewed by people who like fighting games.
Right.
You know, so it's like, yeah, I bet if you like fighting games, this will be really good. I don't know how to judge that.
So you're saying over?
I'll say under, but just like 90. I still think it'll score well.
Okay.
I'm also going under. I probably would also say, yeah, I probably would also say 90. If we want to be different, I could just say 89.
Okay,
but
thank you for being different.
I think too, like the thing about the 90 on Metacritic is it's really hard to get because so many people have to rate you like a 9 or a 10 to account for the occasional like lower scores. So that's why you'll see like stuff that's really like critically acclaimed, but like still doesn't have above a 90 or higher on Metacritic. So it's like, it's always kind of dicey for is something that I mean, like Last of Us Part 1 didn't get a 90, even though it's the same game as before, which granted, maybe that's why, but like still, like no one didn't like it. It was just like, I don't know, 88, whatever.
Yeah.
This is slightly off topic, but does it astound anyone else in the year of our Lord 2022 when you see an article that writes about user scores in like a way that treats them like they're legitimate?
Oh,
like it's like The Last of Us 2 has a 3.6 on Metacritic, and yet some people argue it's one of the best games of all time. Like it's just I read an article about the Woman King the other day that was like casting doubt that like the audience reaction kind of A+ thing was real because like the user reviews were very low, and I was like, do you not see what's happening here?
No, that's just an honest verdict, man. I don't know what you're talking about. Last thing about Street Fighter 6, like the character creator, is pretty wild. You can make a lot of crazy stuff, but still, I was struck by just walking around the space, and there was a character that was running around the space, and they just had 2 giant floating cat paws behind them. And then they were in a pink sweater, like Punch Out. And then they're wearing a dress below that. And then their head was just like a CRT monitor. I was like, I understand character creators, but like that's great. If this is where they're going with the absurdity of some of these characters or just unlockables and stuff you can customize your character with in the future, it's going to be a weird social hub. So Street Fighter 6, no release date yet. I think they just said 2023 so far. So people are predicting before EVO next year, but we'll see. Hey, speaking of EVO, the true game that should be an EVO next year, I think we all know what I'm going to finish the sentence with. But Kyle, of course, it's Let's Sing ABBA, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah,
the hot new release. This is your time. There's a new... Okay, Janet, there's a lot to unpack here. Have you ever played something from the Let's Sing series before?
I have not. And I don't think I'm alone in that because when I tweeted about it, people were like, I did not know this existed. And I was like, welcome to the rest of your life.
Yep. It's, I guess, in that Just Dance territory where quietly Deep Silver has been pumping out these Let's Sing games. And oh my God, there's Let's Sing Country, Let's Sing Queen, of course. Let's Sing Again.
I have Let's Sing Queen.
Oh, Let's Sing with Popeye. These are different things. This is confusing. But this is Let's Sing ABBA. Janet, I played this freaking thing too, but I'm very curious what you think about Let's Sing ABBA.
Top level, I loved it. I feel like if you like ABBA and you're down to sing, ideally with another person, because I admittedly don't think I'd want to just play with myself. I just feel like that'd be kind of a lonely experience. Yeah. But if you're that person who played Mario Party with just AI because you didn't have any siblings, maybe you're down to sing it alone.
And that's respectable.
I absolutely loved it. For more like, I guess, critical layers, it doesn't look very nice. Like the avatars are very ugly, which was like, why do they look ugly?
It's the people from ABBA. How dare you say they're ugly?
They're not ugly. The way they were constructed, it does not look good.
It is weird. It's like starting it up, I was like, oh, is this going to be like a Rock Band Beatles level presentation? Which is how like they have the avatars of the members of, sorry, is it ABBA over ABBA?
I usually say ABBA.
All right, I'll say ABBA too.
I've always said ABBA.
I don't know how you say it in Swedish or whatever.
ABBA.
But I don't know. I trust
maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
No. I bet you're right. I bet you're totally right.
I don't know.
Yeah. I understand.
Call down the comments. They don't even know what they're talking about.
I agree that it doesn't look the greatest, and then also the thing that drove me nuts is like the lyrics are so small on the screen where you're trying to read it to figure out what the pitch is, because it kind of is like, hey, go higher or lower, kind of in a Rock Band style way. But then they have the lyrics again, like bigger on the bottom, so you can read it just fine. but then you don't exactly know the pitch you should be going for. Like, you need a little bit of that guidance.
Is it leaving? Okay, I guess it's leaving room for multiple people to be singing at the same time.
I guess so.
No, because
I'm watching.
It hasn't repeated each time. One beef I had is when you have 3 players, it doesn't show the lyrics underneath we'll call them notes, right? Because it's kind of what they are, like high or low or whatever, is kind of trying to show your like pitch where you're supposed to be singing. And it has the text under that. But when you have 3 people, it doesn't put that text under there. So you have to just kind of suss it out, and that's difficult. To your point, Ben, though, I think that doesn't matter as much depending on how close you're standing to your TV or how big your TV is, because I didn't have that opinion but I have a huge like TV in my living room and I sit pretty close to it. I actually did like that they had the lyrics doubled, though, because it let you kind of pre-read ahead and then see it for the notes.
That's too much ABBA to digest in my brain at any one moment. Like, okay, I gotta scan ahead for the lyrics.
Who's buying this who doesn't know the lyrics to ABBA
I guess
songs?
that is a great question. That is a great question.
Hold on, because you're quick to dismiss. Let me speak for the fake ABBA stands out here. I like ABBA, however you pronounce it, but I don't know like the entire disc, and I know it's mostly the hits, and I know like whatever, but like I'm more of like Mamma Mia ABBA. I got you, even though I barely watched Mamma Mia like a few weeks ago. That I have, but like some of.
Did you see Mamma Mia? Here we go again.
No, I haven't seen it yet. I've only seen the first one.
Well, you're not living yet, Janet. You truly have to dive into that world.
Yeah, if we want to talk about sequels that did get a higher meta score than the original.
I didn't think it's unjustified. I like it about the same as the first Mamma Mia. But anyway, sorry, go on, Janet.
I do want to just shout out, because people ask me a lot on Twitter, like, how do you play it? Like, you can play it with your phone. I think you can also use like a plugged in mic, but I feel like the phone is the easy way to go. It works pretty well once you get it set up. I will say, when I first had to connect, I had a lot of issues.
Yep, same here.
Trying to like get it to connect, but once it connected, it kind of remembers that you've connected before, so it's pretty easy to get back into it. I played on PS5 for the ABBA version, and for Queen, I got that on Switch. And for some reason on Switch, it didn't work as well. I don't know if it's because it's on Switch, but like, and not the game itself, but just like and I don't know if it's because we sang louder because we knew Queen more than ABBA, but like I had to stand farther away from Maggie's, who I played with, my sister-in-law, and it just kept kind of disconnecting our phones. So I'm like, let me just stand like way away from you.
That's so annoying.
And then after that worked fine. So I will say, elements of the execution are not perfect, but generally I had a blast playing it. Once I did the ABBA one, I was like, Ben, they have Queen. Ask them if we can get Queen content. If not, I'll buy it. And it's like $40. And I'm like, that's kind of like a lot for what it is in a sense. But my sister-in-law loved it too. She's like, oh, if you don't get a code, we'll just split the cost, because I'm trying to queen up. And I had so much fun. I think it's like, for, people always talk about like the value, whatever. Again, there's issues with the game. It's not the prettiest looking product, but I loved it. I would and will buy more of these, because I love the process of just singing along.
Okay,
it's like karaoke in your living room.
I hear you. Nothing better than singing, nothing better than karaoke in your living room. I mean, was your voice coming out of the TV? Because my voice was
no.
Okay, at that point, save $40, just pull up a karaoke version of ABBA on YouTube or Queen on YouTube, like $40.
Here's the fun.
No
and I'm being 100% for real. I feel like people might think I'm hamming it up for the memes. I genuinely like this game. I had a great time, and I recommend it if you like the songs and think what I'm describing sounds fun. I think the difference between this and like pulling up a YouTube video, because you're right, Hanson, mechanically, I'm sure it costs that because of the licensing, but there's not a lot going on there. No. But what makes it fun is the gamification of having to hit the notes and how funny it becomes when you're playing with, especially another person. Ben, did you play this with anyone, or were you just by yourself?
I shared a mic with my wife. We were in bed singing like cool people.
Yeah, I don't recommend that. I think sharing the mic would also make it hard to tell, who's doing what or whatever. But what's fun about it is like you end up getting to these hilarious scenarios that you don't with karaoke, because regular karaoke, you're just going to sing it and you're singing well or not, and who cares? Now, I'm not going to imply that you're going to be singing well if you follow the highs and the lows, but you end up with these hilarious scenarios where you're like singing a song that you may know and love well, and then you're just like trying to hit the right note, it's not going low enough, and you're like, and it's so funny. Like, and when you have to hold a note for a certain amount of time too, and you're just straining, and you're like, it turns out these ABBA Queen songs are really hard to sing if you're trying to hit the, and then you're doing the ups and the downs.
Mama
it is so fun.
Mia!
Right.
Yeah.
Well, again, I played both ABBA and
I
Queen
know,
one.
that
The
must be
ABBA one is new. The
confusing.
Queen one isn't. But
Okay.
yeah, that's the fun of it.
I think the fun the
what
fun
was cool.
The fun is really just seeing these music videos from ABBA in particular playing in the background. And I'm sure karaoke versions on YouTube exist where you can watch those, because like there is a certain je ne sais quoi to like music videos from the 70s where it's just, we're just going to be standing in this room and we're going to try to come up with ways to make it exciting by like having a snap zoom on the camera, or like maybe if we face this way, this will be seen as a different shot. But it's all just like, you're just members of ABBA. Maybe best case scenario is like the Gimme 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 music video. They're like riding the levels in the studio a little bit. That's like the most action you get. But when the song's that good, you don't need to try that hard.
I have a very specific memory, Hanson, of, I don't remember why it came up, but we were in New York for the Switch stuff.
Yeah.
When the Switch was revealed, and we were just like getting lunch or something at a crowded restaurant, and for some reason you were like, have you ever seen the ABBA music video for
Take a Chance on Me.
Take a Chance on Me? And I was like, no, I don't think so. And like, so in the middle of this crowded restaurant, they were like, all right, you need to watch this right now. And I remember just like waiting to get a table, just watching this video on my phone, being like, yeah, I'm glad I watched this. This is really
so
weird.
Weird. Especially like singing the lyrics to Take a Chance on Me. That is a weird hit song where it's just like, hey, I'll be here if you want like second fiddle. I'll still kiss you really hard, even though I'm not a great looker. It's just like a weird theme to be a juggernaut hit. But it's beautiful in its own way, you know?
I think too with where it adds more layers in karaoke, like with that example, it's like you might have to do some of like the backup or secondary vocals where you take a chance. Like it just, it creates, again, it's gamifying something that you could totally do, you know, otherwise, but it just kind of adds an extra layer to all of that. And yeah, like it's just it's a convenient packaging of it. Again, I'm sure there's people who would have no interest in playing this, or not, it's not up their alley. But I think if what I'm describing sounds like a fun evening, I had a blast with it, and I'll be playing it more like throughout my life. Like I plan on buying these if I don't just get codes for them already.
I'm so surprised.
Yeah, and I had fun. I liked the game. There you go. Like, I think you should play it if you're interested in just the music element and you like singing and hanging out with whoever. You have a friend that's down to play. Like, yeah. Anyway,
here's my recommendation. Take the $40 that Let's Sing. Okay, it's going to be number 3 for top 10 games of the year. But my recommendation is take the $40 you'd put into Let's Sing ABBA and buy a Bluetooth mic or some sort of mic and little speaker thing. And then you could just put this on YouTube, and then you could actually have your voice coming out of a speaker.
I mean, does the gamification element not do anything for you? Because it does require you to like pitch up and down, and that's like the fun of it to me.
You are so excited for the next Zelda game when you could just go in your backyard, find a stick, and explore the outside.
Exactly.
Oh, Dad.
It's like it's giving. Why don't you play guitar in real life instead of pressing these buttons?
It's $40
on Guitar Hero?
for like these music videos. It's insane. But hey, you know what?
Well, again, I'm sure like part of that pricing is the licensing. And like I had fun. Like I feel like totally.
We got it. We got it.
Yeah, but like I don't know. Like it is a lot in a sense for what it is, but like I wouldn't regret buying that. Like I think it's fun, and you're gonna have fun with it, even though it is basic. But it's like a classic, a game that you don't have to be a gamer to play and enjoy. And I had a fun time, and I feel like isn't that what you're looking for in games?
Dan, I just wish you would
fun.
tell us if you like the game.
We got it. Let's sing ABBA. Take it to the bank, everybody. ABBA forever. We can all sound like Pierce Brosnan singing at home. All right, Jacob, there's a game called Betrayal at Club Low. You wanted to talk about?
I want to talk about this game.
Sure.
Okay, so there's this indie creator named Cosmo D who has his own whole little universe. He made a game called Off Peak and it's kind of a series called Tales from Off Peak City, which is this is the second of, but they're all disconnected. And it's similar to one of my favorite games of the year, Citizen Sleeper, in that it's kind of an RPG that is all based on very literalized dice rolls. But the thing about this one is it's very short and it's very funny. That the whole game is you're like a spy sent to find out what's going on in this like nightclub. and you can, talk to all sorts of people and kind of like attempt to persuade them to give you information or let you into rooms or whatever in different ways. But your skills are like, it's like deception, cooking, music, like wisdom. Like they're just kind of like random, like they're not kind of your typical RPG skills. And so like in my run, I was like, I'm gonna put all my points into cooking. And so then I was like playing, and like I could not lie to get past the bouncer at the door, but I could like make a really good pizza and then engage him about pizza, and then he let me fun. In.
Yes.
And so it's like, it is not a particularly complex game, but like you can beat it in an evening, and it's just like,
Sold.
It's very goofy, and the art style is very funny, and the music is incredible. The guy like writes all his own music, and it's one of those games where it kind of feels like he made the music first and then came up with a game to fit the music. And so it's just like, it's a really kind of fun, stylish game that takes 2 hours to play, and I enjoyed it.
It's just on Steam and itch.io, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Betrayal at Club Low, everybody. It's in the description if you're looking for an exact spelling, all that fun stuff. Let's see. Kyle, do you know how this whole thing operates?
Karaoke singing.
Mainly karaoke singing. Also the direct
and
support.
$40 on the karaoke singing.
That's right. And because of the direct support of people like Kevin Kennedy. Happy birthday, Kevin Kennedy!
Hey, happy birthday!
Keep being a good dad. Also, thank you to some of our bigger supporters. I'm talking about wonderful people like Leader Games. They want everybody to know about Ahoy, which is an upcoming tabletop game. They are the creators of Root, which is one of the most recent beloved tabletop games released. And in Ahoy, it's a game of seafaring and smuggling, Kyle, for up to 2 to 4 players. And if it's 2 players, it's like territory conquest kind of thing. And then as you add more players, they are playing an asymmetrical, different type of game where they're actually on trade routes which change the values of the land that the other people are conquering and claiming. So it's a funky one. It's very accessible. It's a good time. It is called Ahoy. So you can check that out. There's a link below if you're interested in a new tabletop game. And you can follow MinnMax on Twitter. We are giving away a copy of Ahoy every week this month. So give us a follow on Twitter, and there'll be a tweet up on Thursday, the day this episode's going live. And you can share that for a chance to win your own copy of Ahoy. And thank you to the fine folks at I Am 8-Bit. They want everybody to know about the new game from Garbage Pail Kids, Mad Mike, and the Quest for Stale Gum. This is an NES-style game that actually will work on an NES. It's a very fun, cool idea.
Drop the style. It's just an NES.
I guess that is a weird way to put it. Yeah, it is just an NES game, everybody. But you can check it out. It is the long lost game, is the way they put it. Stale Gum. Oh, and it has 2 different variants in I'm 8-Bit Store. Stale Gum Pink and Mad Mike Blue, of course. So if you want a funky old NES game coming out, you can check that out. It's a fun idea. And Drew Scanlon, formerly of Giant Bomb, is the producer on that game for a whole full circle. And you can get it in I'm 8-Bit's wonderful online store, where you can use the promo code Cereal Monsters. Cereal spelt like the food cereal, no space. Cereal Monsters for 10% off everything in that store under $100. So please check it out. Helps support them because they support us in a big bad way. For example, they're shipping out a prize to whoever has the best question of the week here, and they're shipping out a prize, and it's the Super Monkey Ball vinyl soundtrack, which is most excellent. So we need to remember who submitted the best question over on Patreon, because that's how we exist, everybody. It's just people went to patreon.com/MinnMax, found the tier that's right for them. Even at that $2 tier, $2, jump in there. You can submit a question, and you can be in the running for a question of the week prize. So, all right, we got to remember who's going to receive this wonderful prize from I Am 8-Bit. You ready for some questions, y'all?
Yeah.
Matthew Weatherly writes in and says, hey, what do you think the chances are that the Mario movie soundtrack will be 100% music composed by Nintendo? I just can't picture Mario being paired with a pop song. Also, what's the bet that KK will hide his song somewhere in the movie? I doubt that, but it'd be interesting.
0%.
chance. Yeah.
I think there will be a pop song in this movie. I don't think they can ignore that.
And honestly, it'll probably be decent. You know, it's like what's the Pharrell song that came from Despicable
Happy?
Me?
Happy, yeah.
Same
That
studio,
came
baby.
from that, really?
Yes.
Every Despicable Me release has had some crazy Pharrell hit come from it. Matt Stone sang on one. Did you ever hear that one, Hanson?
Wasn't it Trey Parker?
Or Trey Parker? Sorry.
Yeah, no, I don't think I did.
Yeah.
You know, everything is awesome. This Lego movie, like it'll have a pop song, and I don't know. It's absolutely gonna have
Also-
pop songs in it.
Reminder that the end of Mario Odyssey has a pop song, and it's awesome. It's fantastic. It's like a great way to send that game off. It's so cool.
Yeah, I think like in Jack Black's Comic-Con interview, or just he was on stage or something, he said something about singing in the movie, and he's like, we're going to Broadway after. And so we're at least getting a Bowser song. And at that point, I'd imagine we're going to get more songs from more characters. So like that actually lowers the odds that there are pop songs, I think, if they have original music in here,
Unless they're singing the pop song. Like Bowser's like, take a chance, took a chance.
Oh, excellent. Or like, yeah, like, okay, we have Chris Pratt's Mario singing Van Halen's Jump. Like, I'm trying to think of like what
Oh my
thematically
God.
is going to work.
So it's like a licensed pop song. Okay.
Yeah.
This would be a great get a load of this, but I'm going to say it now. The funniest YouTube video of all time is Toad singing the song Chandelier.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's just-
God.
Yep.
Truly, it's like if 40 seconds into that song, I start crying from how hard I'm laughing.
Do you think, oh, by the way, I was rewatching that Mario trailer because something's wrong with my head. And I didn't notice this the first several times I watched it, but when they're like, Mushroom Kingdom, here we come, and they run off, like you can see Mario like jumping onto the mushrooms and he's like catching himself and kind of stumbling. So I think they're actually going to have like a jumping montage of like Mario getting trained how to properly jump, right?
You think the first time he hits a block with his head, he's going to be like, "Ow,"
Yes.
and then he's going to...
100% that'll be a joke.
He
Yes.
punches the blocks, everybody. Come on. He puts his hands up. He punches the
Okay.
blocks.
Chris Pratt doesn't know that. He's going to hit it with his head.
What I was thinking with this question is like, is there a song that's about brothers that's like a pop song that would make sense?
Boys are back in town.
Oh my gosh.
That would be so stupid to have them running through the Mushroom
Thin
Kingdom.
Lizzy scores the Mario movie.
We are
I
family.
would be okay with the boys are back in town.
Yeah, all right. I think that's it. Wesley Minner writes in and says, hey, Splatoon 3 announced their next Splatfest with choices of the 3 starting Pokemon from the upcoming games. As someone who's fallen off of Pokemon in recent years for various reasons, this has left a bad taste in my mouth. It feels like Splatoon may now be the vehicle to deliver cheap marketing campaigns for the next couple years of Nintendo game releases. Where do you draw the line for this type of in-game advertising?
If it's good and fun, I don't have a problem with it. Splatoon's already done that overseas. They've had like McDonald's menu items and things, and like I'm fine with that. Like, we live in a capitalistic world, and a lot of times that creates darkness, but sometimes we can just have a fun time. Like, I want to pick, fries versus McNuggets. Like, I would have fun doing that, even if it is inherently for capitalistic purposes. So I think as long as it's not like a whack option, like I think there is like a big cultural conversation around what starter you pick, even though, yes, that is inherently helping sell a thing or get
Right.
attention to a thing.
Yeah,
The Pokemon stuff is fun. I don't mind the Pokemon. I think that's great. I think, the synergy there is just off the charts. But
It really does feel, and I truly do not mean disrespect to the question asker here, that like if you like the thing, it would probably be fun. Because it's like, I don't like Pokemon, and so yeah, I don't care. But if it was like, pick your side, Bayonetta or Jean, I would be like, hell yeah,
Right.
good job,
Yeah.
Splatoon.
I will say I don't like the French fries McNuggets thing. If it were like Coke versus Pepsi, I think that would
Yeah, I
actually,
don't remember
like, if
what it
you're
was. I
pitting-
can look it up.
If you're
versus
pitting
Dr. Pibb.
corporations against each other, I think that's kind of fun. But if it is like, if it's just like we partner with McDonald's and it's like purely a McDonald's thing,
Double A or
that-
triple A batteries from Duracell.
yeah, like that.
Don't make me
that
choose.
also leaves a bad taste in my mouth. But I mean, Nintendo is pretty good. They have a pretty good track record of not leaning into that stuff too much, right? Like they never. The fact that like Animal Crossing doesn't have microtransactions, like
Well, Pocket
is,
Camp
like,
says hello.
well, yeah, Pocket Camp excluded, but but that's not to say they won't be bad about it in the future. But it,
Are
fingers
all the
crossed, doesn't get gross.
Splatfest 3-way competitions?
Now they will be. Yes.
Now they will be. Okay.
In Splatoon 3. Yes. They're all,
Yeah. Because like that seems tough. I was even racking my brain of like outside of Rock Paper Scissors, which they kicked it off with, and apparently Grub Games or Gear or whatever the hell the second one was. I was like, what other big like? Yes, thank you. What wild fun is like? What other big 3-way split debates are there? So when this Pokemon one got announced,
Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit.
That's right. That's right. It's all technically the same.
I actually have a list of these on my
Splatfest.
iPad. I'm sad I don't have my iPad with me. I wrote out a list. I'm working on a list of ideas that no one's going to use because I don't work at anywhere that would be relevant.
Uh-huh.
Rock, paper, scissors, right? That's one.
Well, they already did that one. That was the
They
first
did
one.
it. Oh, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah. No
Come
wonder
on,
I came
Kyle.
up with that. It's because
We have to
time of
mobilize
day,
for the
time of day.
Holy Spirit.
Morning, afternoon, night.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. But I don't know. I think the 3-way fights are less exciting. I think it's Protoss, Zerg,
Christmas,
Terran.
Hanukkah, Kwanzaa.
Just have at it.
Go.
Oh, come
Read
on
into
now.
it as you will.
Christmas is gonna.
Yeah,
No.
story of my life. Christmas always
know.
wins.
Here's the
But
true
yeah.
war on Christmas. It's happening in Splatoon.
But then again, like what's so fun is the community angles of it. Yeah, I'm excited to see what they come up with for the 3s because they haven't nailed it all the time for the 2. Remember socks versus sweaters? That was dumb. That was like the dumbest one they had.
I think that's
I
more
feel like they
compelling
should-
than Grub or Gear.
The best one ever has to be the like ketchup versus mayo, right? Because it was like actually the colors of those things.
Oh,
I feel like they should do it more where it's like the things already have colors. So
well,
you
that's
can
what the
just,
Pokemon.
like,
They're kind of are doing that there.
right. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's good then.
Therefore, it's
I'm
good.
back around. Pokemon's good.
My favorite was waffles versus pancakes, as well as orange juice, pulp versus no pulp.
That's
Who
good.
won that one?
good.
I forget, but again, you don't really remember.
now they
What you
can do
remember is the
milk.
the fun you had.
2%
You know?
whole milk skim, and they're just like slightly different shades of white.
Oh God, I don't know. The mayo one was already kind of gross looking. I don't want milk v milk.
Jonathan Fenrich, and it says, "Hey cohorts, in honor of Square Enix's most ingeniously named game, can you please start a new weekly show called Hilarious Play Life? I'm not sure what it involves, but I trust you to figure it out." Yeah, we'll throw that in the new show plus poll. Absolutely. Jeff Enright says, "Hey, MinnMax and Nemesis Jeffum." Oh, I hope you hear this, Jeffum. I hope you're enjoying listening to this, Jeffum. What is the worst gaming injury you've ever gotten? Or if you haven't gotten injured because you game too hard or as a result of gaming, how about what is the worst injury you've had that affected your ability to game?
So pistol whip, I whipped my head into a bookshelf really hard.
Oh, this is the VR game.
The VR game, yeah. And then I again, pistol whip again, I punched a wall really hard to the point where my knuckle like inflated, and I went to the doctor and they looked at it. They gave it an x-ray because I thought I had broken my knuckle. Like thankfully I had just like pulled the tendons, I pulled the muscle off the bone. But it did make it hard to like type and play games for a while, and it took me a while to comfortably play pistol whip also. Like
So that's
I
how
had
good
to,
pistol whip is. That's what I've learned from this.
Yeah, I
You're
gotta
ready
play
to
it.
die.
it's a
Put
great
your life on
game.
the line for pistol whip.
Mine are
good.
also VR. I can't remember if I hit a wall or if I actually hit the other controller. I think it was the other controller, but I was playing Before You Fall, which is like a sword fighting VR game, and I smacked my hands together and I like hit my pinky against the controller really hard, and it felt kind of out of sorts for a few days.
Did you go to the doctor at all for that? Or?
No, I mean it feels fine now. But I thought
that was a kind of weirdly fun experience to like explain it to like the nurse checking me in, and then my doctor he's young, and he you know he's not like a huge gamer or anything, but he knows video games and plays some video games. He thought it was pretty funny, but
you might be wondering, why is
took
this
it
young cool
seriously.
guy in here?
Oh,
Like I
God.
appreciated the sort of the sense of humor he had about it, but then it was like, okay, but seriously though, let's look at your hand and make sure you're okay.
Ricky Winterborn writes in, and they say, fighting games are kind of like the pickle of game genres. They are described by having fighting, but then like 80% of all other games also have fighting in them as well. Fist fights, gun fights, relationship fights. The pickle conversation shattered my reality. Yeah, that's true.
What? Wait, what's the pickle? What?
Oh God,
It's
it
a long
was the
story.
best moment on this podcast.
You were here last week, weren't you, Janet?
No, I just listened to it.
Oh, well.
Yeah, Jacob's better than me, so he's like in our community more.
Yeah, that's fine. Just go look up Wikipedia for pickle.
Yeah. We're trying to figure out what constitutes pickling, like what it means. Right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, but it was just the phrasing of the question.
Yes,
was
it's
like made me feel like I was having a stroke.
Yep, that's right. But yeah, fighting games are the pickle of genres. There's no doubt. Seth writes in and they ask, what time of day do you consider morning and afternoon? I told someone I was free for
Next
a meeting.
Blackfest, I'm telling you.
Ooh, yeah, there we go. I told someone I was free for a meeting in the early afternoon, and they responded with an 11 a.m. invite saying that early afternoon worked for them as well. Isn't it morning until 11:59? Then afternoon for, say, anything after 12? Am I going crazy? Yeah, they're in the wrong. Early afternoon, you can't send an 11 a.m. Unless there's time zone wonkiness. That's the only excuse for what's happening here.
I feel like the afternoon starts at 1. Because like 11 to 12 to 1 is lunch. That's its own time.
Lunchtime? So like let's schedule a meeting at lunchtime? That feels completely different. Yeah. Joe Mama writes in and says, in an interview with IGN a while back, the Breath of the Wild director stated that the reason you couldn't pet the dog in the game is because they did not have a gameplay mechanic for petting the dog, instead opting for being able to feed the dog as holding ingredients was already a mechanic. Kyle, is this type of design smart and cool or dumb and stupid?
I actually
God.
am kind of, to a certain degree, a proponent of this sort of thought process
Of not
like,
petting puppies?
If it's like, I mean, it's so, I don't get it. What do you gain out of that? Like, what's the gameplay like?
Love.
Outside of getting featured on a Twitter account, like,
Right.
I don't know. I don't.
Yeah, I hear you.
It's like flushing the toilet. It's the warm fuzzy version of flushing the toilet.
In a game.
I don't gain
That's
anything.
fair.
I want to
Yeah.
do it.
There was a great video by this OG video essayist called Matthew Mitosis a couple weeks ago that was talking about essentially about the interact button and how like that has the idea of having an interact button has kind of taken over modern gaming. But he was arguing like the more things that you can do just as a mechanic that exists and not like a single discrete action, the more involving the game is. So I actually kind of agree with this Zelda thing of like, the way you can interact with the dog is just by using everything that already exists, by like being able to pick up food and put food down and spin around and the dog spins around, because then it feels like you are making that choice. But if there's like a button that just says pet, it's like, well, the game has decided that I can pet the dog, and then I can just agree with the game to pet the dog.
Yeah.
I also just like that sort of like that thought process of considering every interaction of the player. Like just like, what does that mean in the larger scope of things, as opposed to like, oh, we should include this because, you know, people want to do it. It's like, what does that mean? Why are you doing it? Like, I just like that. Like, I love developers overthinking that kind of thing.
Yeah, it leads to, I think, a tighter, larger sense of design for the game instead of just having these lingering one-offs in every little direction. It's like, oh, no, how does it fit in the ecosystem?
You know, the less context sensitivity you have, the more you feel like you're kind of in control of the character.
Yeah,
I think.
Yep, I think that's right. You need to know your verbs going into any situation. Spencer writes in and says, I was given a task, and now the time has come. I quote, please somebody write in 4 months from now to the MinnMax Show podcast over on Patreon and ask me, Ben Hansen, do I remember what shim is? So Spencer asked, do you remember what the game shim is? It was one of the mini games that were shown at the Wholesome Direct, where that quote is from, but that is the only hint you get. Paint for me a picture of what shim is, then see how close you get. Spencer, I'm so on top of this. Shim is the game where your little thing, you jump between the shadows. It's like the shadow platformer. What are you? Are you a frog? You're something jumping between shadows, and it looks cute, and it's very stylish, but it still is a terrible name for the game. SCHIM. But I do remember, and I mainly just remember because listening to other podcasts, shim locked into my brain because some people played it and they seemed excited about it.
Is that not skim? Shim?
I don't know.
No, it's shim.
It is shim?
Okay.
It's like shim.
Doesn't it mean swim in a different language?
I don't know. Is it in ABBA's language? Mike Lynch writes in and they say, do you think a rude person... By the way, does ABBA sing in Swedish? Do they have versions of all their hits in Swedish?
Like the actual band? I don't know.
Yeah.
They did that Spanish album, though.
They did a Spanish album?
Yeah, didn't they? Right? Or was it someone else covering their songs? They
That's
have like
fascinating.
Chiquitita is definitely a song that was. There's an all Spanish version of that song.
That sounds great.
It's funny because my sister-in-law didn't even know that it was an ABBA song until she's like, "Oh, it's in English now." For some
Oh,
reason.
weird. That's funny. Mike Lynch asked, do you think a rude person would get the same thrill playing through the good branch path in a game as someone who is nice playing the evil branching path?
I don't like being nice and playing through the evil path, so I don't. It's like I don't find it fun as a nice person to do the evil thing usually.
So you don't think like Hitler would get a real kick out of playing the Paragon path in Mass Effect?
I think we could have. There's so many things we could have gone that were less severe than Hitler.
Yeah.
No, I think it's safe territory. Lean into it, y'all.
I think that I want more games that would confront a rude person with the idea that actually their day-to-day behavior is rude. Because I think it would be too easy to just play the Paragon path and be like, yeah, that's me. I'm good.
What percentage of American adults do you think are inherently rude, Jacob Geller?
Inherently?
Well,
I mean, I very low. I think rudeness is kind of like cultural. Where it's just like it might seem rude to someone else, but not to, the way you're used to communicating.
Wait, really?
That's an interesting.
I mean,
point.
that's like the New York thing of like, if me, a mild mannered Southerner, went to New York, I might feel that people were being rude to me, but they wouldn't be. They would just be kind of
okay.
Like,
Well, from if you're the center of the universe, then looking out, and you can cast the millions of New Yorkers as officially rude.
I would still say like 10%. I think it's pretty low.
Yeah, I'd go over. I'd say 24% of American adults are straight up rude.
It's like I think that people, I don't know, when I worked at a restaurant, more than 10% of people were rude to me, but I don't know if that makes them inherently rude or if they just
No, that does.
weren't taught how to behave in a restaurant. Well, then 49%.
Okay,
Yeah, I was
absolutely.
thinking 35.
Okay, well. Half Tip writes in and they say, hey, all, I don't know if anyone already did this, but I wanted to submit Kendrick Lamar's album, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers for the greatest work of art of all time for 2022. It's a raw look at love, loss, grief, and overcoming generational trauma, coming from a great artist that's at the top of his game right now. It came out in May and it's been sticking with me all year long. Hey, sure, throw stuff out there. I haven't listened to this. Has anybody else listened to this?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, of course. And it's good?
Yeah, I don't like it as much as TPAB, but
Okay.
I'll try to remember it when I have to think about this later.
Should I try and be cool, obnoxious guy, vary in his lane right now? Is that the move to do on a podcast? By proclaiming, I would not be able to pick out Kendrick Lamar's music out of a lineup. I could not name one song. I am that unhip. I know nothing about Kendrick Lamar.
You just don't listen to hip hop, right? So
I don't listen to anything. If I hear beats in succession, I run the opposite direction. Speaking of which, Jai Bones writes in and asks, what was the last concert you went to? I checked out Tennis recently. Check them out if you like some easy-going indie pop. That's interesting. Yeah, last concert anybody went to. Kyle, you're really racking your brain. I can see.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I don't really like going to concerts.
Oh.
I did there was a point. There was a point in my life where I was going to a concert every weekend. But I hit that old guy point pretty quickly where I was like, I kind of want to sit down if I'm going to an event somewhere.
I think you hit your old guy point at
You
like
still
22.
can. But I understand. Like, my boyfriend doesn't like concerts.
Yeah.
So
I think it was maybe the Shins in like 2000.
That's the game where you jump from shadow to shadow.
I thought he was going to say, I think it's maybe my shins. Like, that's why I just can't go anymore. My Lupe Fiasco is the cool.
What is it, Janet?
Lupe Fiasco is the cool. He did his anniversary tour of that album, 15-year anniversary tour. And it was hilarious because there's nothing but like old millennials who like, yep, we all love Lupe Fiasco's the cool. So it was interesting. Like, and yeah, because normally it's not such a, I think stuff usually skews a little bit younger, but I'm like, yeah, everyone's like the same age here because we all listened to Lupe's the cool. It's a million years ago.
Kyle, you know what it might be actually is
that?
Prince. Because I remember my wife was pregnant. And so it would have been like 2010 or something
wow.
like that. And I
mean,
remember,
you can never go to a concert again if your last concert was Prince. Like, you just have to keep that.
And just to
as
be
your
clear,
last-
the weird thing.
well, I know no one will ever be better.
But just to be clear, your wife wasn't pregnant before she went to the concert?
she was pregnant at the concert.
Yeah.
But it was just funny. It was always, because now I think about it, it was weird because it was before Game Informer, before any of that happened. You know what I mean? So like in utero, my daughter heard Prince, and then I moved to Prince World, Minnesota, months later.
Princetown, USA, they renamed it. Come on down.
Mine was my current favorite band, which is The Beths. I saw about a month ago. They're a New Zealand alt-rock band. If anyone knows them, the cookie for you.
I saw Me First and the Gimme Gimmes. They were just in Minneapolis not too long ago. It's that
nice
punk rock dream team cover band. It's like one of my favorite shows I've ever been to. Was them years ago at the Triple Rock, and so I was excited to go. And then I went with Grant, who was on the Deepest Dive for Final Fantasy VII and stuff. And right before the show, like we're getting dinner before the show, and he's like, "By the way, you know about the lineup these days, right?" And I was like, "What?" And it turns out that like only the main singer was there for this leg of the tour, and everybody else, like Fat Mike and Joey Cape, like everybody else was just not there. And instead they had like replacement band members where it's like, on bass, we have CJ Ramone from the Ramones. It's like, what a weird thing. Just to like see somebody from the Ramones playing Somewhere Over the Rainbow on bass. Like, it's just a bizarre concoction. But
did they play All of Me, the Frank Sinatra song?
They didn't. I'm sorry, Kyle.
It's my favorite one. That's the best one.
By the way, it was weird going to the show and not going to a lot of concerts and just realizing like, oh, the average fan of Me First and the Gimme Gimmes and kind of that punk rock era, they're really old now. And it's terrifying to realize that like, oh, I look like them, except they all look like nasty old people and they're not punk at all. Unlike real punk rockers like me.
So me and Ben went to washed concerts.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly it. Nick Ludeman writes in and says, does it bother anyone else that there isn't a word in the English language to describe giving someone a drink? For example, you can feed a baby food, but can't drink it water. You have to add extra context for drinking compared to feeding. Isn't that weird?
That is weird.
Is it the case for any other language? Let us know, everybody. In Swedish,
I've
in
also
Ava's
thought
hometown?
it was weird, unless there might be a really obvious word I'm missing, but it's like starving is like I'm dying from lack of food, but it's like you can't say thirsting, or like you have to say like, you know.
What?
I think there is a word for that because I remember looking that up, but I don't know off the top of my head.
It's
so I'm
like
not gonna try to figure it out.
dehydrating, you know, it's like it's not dying from lack of water.
Yeah.
Justin Hughes writes in with a very important take saying, hello, Ben. 4 months ago during the Wholesome Games Showcase, a game was shown named Shim. You made a comment asking someone in 4 months to ask if you remember it, mentioning that the name was poor and forgettable. So do you remember it? I don't remember Shim. Brian Regal writes in and says, as a Star Citizen backer, this is like opening a comment being like, as a proud mother, let me say, no, as a Star Citizen backer, they celebrated their 10-year anniversary with a celebration called CitizenCon, and I'm excited for what they have in store for the game these next several patches. So I was wondering, why do gamers and games media continue to harp on the game so much? Are they so cantankerous or cynical that they cannot accept the vision of the game, or are they too seeped in the publisher model to see what the company's trying to accomplish? I get that the game has been known for 10 years and it's still in alpha development with little to show for it, but with games like Red Dead Redemption 2, DTAs, and other games that take many years to develop, why do they get a pass, but the developers of Star Citizen do not? I also know not everyone is fond of their funding model and marketing, but to make the game they want to make, it takes money, and publishers are too risk averse to invest in a project like Star Citizen. So how else is a game like Star Citizen supposed to gather the funding it needs to make the game it is striving to make? I don't know. I feel like the game and studio get a bad rap for trying to make a very unique game that blends many genres. By the way, all you need to back, quote unquote, is Star Citizen or Squadron 42. All you need to do is to buy a beginner's package, and it's $45. Everything else is just extra if you want to give more money to the project. I think there's something, look, this is my favorite thing. When people write in defending Stadia, defending Star Citizen, of like things that everyone just like makes a joke about and moves on very quickly. Defend anything on the podcast, just write in, we'll take it all. But I think it is just because I think we're not invested in that ecosystem by any means. So everybody in a podcast talking about it's like, I don't know, they made millions and hundreds of millions of dollars and there's not a game out. So thumbs down, moving on. But is there any harm here if the community is happy and they're happy to invest this money to make a weird game?
I mean, the fear is that the money is not going anywhere, which is how it feels from the outside.
Correct.
Right. And it might not be true. And like, I've actually kind of been curious about it weirdly. Like a few weeks ago, I was like, what if I just played Star Citizen? That'd be weird, right? But I think the sort of the negativity and the fear is that people are throwing a lot of money at it and not getting anything from it, because that's what it looks like.
Right.
You know, it's like they have kind of NFT feeling. It's like you can purchase land on a planet or whatever.
Yes.
So it's like that part, you know, and I will say, I do think it's cool, and I have seen like the really enormous ambitions of that game, including stuff that they have already realized, I think are neat. Like I think that it's cool, but it's like I do think also, you know, it's like the game that they've been wanting to make or trying to make, I think is kind of a misleading way of saying it, because I believe at beginning of development, they were not like, there's going to be a competitive first-person shooter in this game. And then they decided, you know, 5 years in, that was going to be a core part of their message. And now that is another piece of the game that is unfinished, as well as the rest of the game, which is also unfinished. And so it's, you know, when you talk about like feature creep, the Star Citizen is the number one thing, because the game that they're attempting to finish now feels so much bigger and less focused than kind of the game that they were making in 2012.
Yeah, what year, Kyle, will there be a Star Citizen review on GameSpot.com?
Ooh, never. I think it's just going to perpetually exist in beta, right?
Yeah, but they'll never hit that
the
threshold.
Same way that, like, is there a Fortnite review on GameSpot?
Yeah, absolutely. I bet there's multiple.
Okay. I don't know. I never, honestly, like maybe coverage for it, but I don't know if there'll ever be a scored Star Citizen review. I don't know.
Weird. Yeah, GameSpot gave Fortnite an 8. If you remember. If you
there
remember,
it is.
That's why, yeah, really. Oh, and then, weird. Yeah. Laying the Foundation. In 2018, they reviewed it. Yeah, I get that idea of like funding something outside of the publisher ecosystem and wanting to defend it in a big way. And I think naturally people are just skeptical, because we've seen a lot of these crowdfunded projects not exactly pan out for folks. So it's part worrying about the people that are quote unquote investing in it, even if it's just the $45 or $60 package. But yeah, I get why that just seems as condescending for the community at times, about like, we know what we're doing. We're just paying for the game ahead of time. We're fine over here. Thank you.
I kind of want to check it out and see where it is like these days.
Do it, please.
You know?
Do it.
Yeah,
do it. Do it, Kyle.
I've spent more on weirder experiences that I touched less. If that makes sense.
Barely. Ozza G writes in and says, "Hey, MinnMax, glad I can finally send a little support your way now that I'm actually working. Thank you. And we exist outside of the publisher model, Ozza. So we promise this podcast will get to you by the year 2027.
You can buy land on the MinnMax moon.
We haven't discovered it yet.
Can you imagine?
That would be a really stupid Patreon tier. We just name a planet randomly. Oh, that'd be so gross. We're not going to do it, but I think it's kind of funny. Anyways, after playing Immortality and loving it, but being very uncomfortable by much of the content, most of which you'd never really see in video games, I remember someone on the podcast describing it as one of the most mature games ever made. That was, parroting the Nextlander version. Yeah. Anyways, but Ozza says, it got me thinking, what are the most mature games ever made? What else is up there with Immortality, do you think, for just straight up mature?
Are we talking about like fanciful, or like I see naked people?
I think you go a lot of different ways. Ozza says, sure, plenty of games get mature ratings for blood and violence. What other games have you played that truly feel like no one but an adult should play this due to its disturbing content?
Yeah, I mean, my first thought for this was Kentucky Route Zero, because it was like, if I was a kid, I would be bored. Yeah. You know, it's like, it's too, it's mature, not in that it's like, there's things you shouldn't see in here, but just like, it takes a level of maturity to understand what this game is doing, which feels somehow more real than like, a guy gets his arm ripped off, so a kid shouldn't see that.
Can you tell me how old I have to be to understand what's happening in Kentucky Road Zero? Can you just give me that age that I have to hit?
You need to be in a college English class and discussing it. So like 20 with a good professor.
Well, I did all that, man, and it's still, I wasn't there.
I didn't like it either. Yeah,
mature.
I mean, I'm not saying you're immature if you don't like it, but it's just like I can't imagine a kid enjoying that game at all.
Yes,
good
absolutely.
recovery. Good recovery for 3 people who haven't really never clicked with Kentucky Route
Not gonna lie though, I am a little dumb, so it's not. It's not mutually exclusive.
I'm absolutely a moron.
I think there are a lot of games that do fall under that. A child likely wouldn't take joy out of it.
Yeah.
Just because the weird art house stuff that me walking through a forest with my grandma in like Levioma, like I don't think that's gonna hit for someone who's like 7.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, I think a lot of the FMV stuff, like I didn't, just because it's a lot to take in and usually is intense. I mean, even her story to a degree, like there's a lot to unpack there. And I do think I think that's one of those like with adult supervision, maybe where I can kind of help contextualize elements of it. It might be kind of a lot to piece together, but
yeah,
I don't know.
It's tough. Yeah. The disturbing content that isn't just gore, because we got that in spades. That's easy, right? But just like, oh, this is disturbing to your core. Like some
Silent Hill 2 flirts with some of that stuff where it's just like I find that game just, it wasn't that I was like necessarily scared of Pyramid Head so much as I was just like, I don't want to be here.
I'm not even supposed to be
I have to
Silent
see
Hill
what
today.
happens next,
Weirdly, a game that I feel like is like scarier to adults than it is to, it's like if I was 13 and played that game, I'd be like, ooh, spooky, but not necessarily get like the real scariness that it was doing.
Like I remember talking to someone in high school about, those creepy nurses, but as I get older, I'm like, that game's about a person coming to grips with his dead wife. Like it's a very different experience at this point.
Mr. Buttons writes in and says, hey, MinnMax crew, 4 months ago, Hansen and Charles McGregor did a live reaction to the Wholesome Games Direct. There was a game showed off that both agreed looked interesting, but heavily criticized the name. Hansen suggested that someone challenge the podcast to name that game after 4 months, and that time has now come. The game's an indie title in which you play as a frog that hops between shadows throughout the world.
Wow, you were right about the frog.
It is being developed by Ewout van der Werf and published by Extra Nice. Hansen declared a better name for the game would have been Paper Trail. Can you name this game? That's shim, Mr. Buttons. That's shim.
For the record show, Hansen did not screen us these questions. I'm like, there's always a couple questions in here that like Hansen just goes rogue and puts them in there.
All of them.
Yep, that's right. Tom Blackburn writes in and says, howdy, Horts. What's going on with the Playdate? How are the rest of the games that came out in Season 1? Why? Who wants to know? I haven't booted mine up for a while. As much as I love a good pick-pack-pup round, I
got an email a few days ago, and I had a tweet about it, but like the Playdate I like, and like I have it next to my Steam Deck on my Switch, but like the backlight is what is a deal breaker ultimately. Like I thought I would be able to get over it, and I would pick it up every few weeks and play with it, but like the couple of times that I've turned it on to do something with it, it's like I gotta find a light to sit under, and I just end up like giving up. Like someone made a Severance game for it.
Oh, weird.
Based on the game. Jacob, you've watched Severance, right? Janet, have you seen Severance? The
Not yet.
HBO, the Apple show? Great show. But they kind of play something that looks like a video game in Severance, which is really fascinating and interesting. And someone sort of tried to make a sort of video game version of it, and they put it on Playdate. And I was like, oh, I'm going to check this out. This is cool. And I got it loaded up on there, and it was like an easy process and everything. But like, I just like, it's just not comfortable to play ultimately because of the lack of a backlight. I just cannot find a good angle to enjoy games on the Playdate, which is a huge bummer because I like it conceptually.
Yeah. Janet, there's no doubt you're holding it, but have you checked out any games beyond the Season 1 stuff?
No, because I'm a bad person. But honestly, I want to echo everything Kyle just said, because that was my biggest criticism when I reviewed it. the lack of backlight just makes it difficult to play. Plus some debatable ergonomics. I mean, everyone, again, is going to have a different feel for it in their hands. Definitely some stuff was uncomfortable to me, but I would power through it for the content. I think it's awesome how people are making stuff, but honestly, I just don't have the time. Like, it's so far down on my list with backlog stuff that I don't know when or if I'll get to it. So that's really been the thing for me. I will say, though, when they drop that little dock thing, if they are going to still drop that, I don't know if they will, I'm going to buy that because I still think the playdate's really cool and I like it conceptually. I just don't. Like many games, I'm not actually playing it.
Yeah, we'll spend more money on it. We just don't want to play. No, I have the thought every couple of months of like, oh, I should go see what the coolest game that people have made online and just boot it up on the Playdate, see how that dev community is going, because they made those tools so accessible. I'm sure there's cool stuff out there, but yeah. If you've been playing yours, please let us know, and please let us know when season 2 is coming for the content, because I am still curious about it.
And Lucas Pope is working on something for
That's
it,
what they
right?
said, but as far as I know, they haven't communicated anything about that Mars.
Because that's
bouncer
going
game
to
for a
be the
long
big
time.
thing for me. Is like, was it Kaita Takahashi? He did the Katamari guy, right? He made a game for it, and like Lucas Pope, like. Those are the things that like sort of get me to turn it on and be like, oh, this creator that I'm familiar with who's done really interesting things in the past, what are they doing with Playdate? That's 100% the thing that will get me excited to check it out again for sure.
Crab Palace says, hey, Ben Handstand and the Twirlers, that's us. I was just in the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona, and it made me feel like I was about to fight a Dark Souls boss. Where have you been that felt remarkably similar to a video game?
An escape room. This is kind of cheating, but I said I was going into one the other day, and I just couldn't believe how much it did feel like I felt like I was using the interact button in real life. I was just like, lamp? No. Face? No.
Pet dog? Yes.
My dad worked for a pharmaceutical company growing up, and he worked like next to the factory where they manufactured pharmaceuticals, and there was like they gave a tour once of the facility, and it was while I was playing Half-Life 1 for the first time.
Oh, fun.
So that was really cool because I was like, oh, I feel like I'm in Black Mesa.
Yeah.
Better not push any contraptions into shiny objects.
Big Pharma is cool. Hell yeah, man.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I guess like immersive theater. First time I really did that in London with Punch Drunk, like that whole thing. I was like, oh my God, this feels so much like a video game. This is like a walking sim, and I'm the sim. All right, what do y'all like for a question of the week?
Jim.
There's three of them, so how would you even pick?
You can't.
I cut that vinyl in thirds.
Yeah.
I liked the mature question. I thought that was interesting.
That is
Just
interesting.
Like, you know what I mean? Like not like it's sort of not thinking about the violence aspect of it, but like games for adults.
I like the petting the dog one.
That one's good too. Yeah.
Janet, where are you leaning?
I like the concerts one just because I feel like no shade to everyone else's answer. I feel like Kyle's story was kind of interesting.
Damn it. All right.
Horizon 6.
You, Jacob.
I liked the concerts one actually as well.
All right, there we go. It's Jai Bones is getting a big old prize for my 8-bit. Thank you so much, 8-bit, for the support. Now it's time for something called Get a Load of This. Kyle, I'm so ready to hear what we need to get a load of little.
Hey, well, why don't you get a little load of this? Get a load of this.
Never say little load again. It's uncomfortable.
I'm actually not super familiar with this site, Control 500, but I came across it. It was getting shared on Reddit like a few months ago, actually, I think at this point. But it's an article, and it just has some photos in it of Toru Iwatani, the creator of Pac-Man. And what it is he's got his notebook where he drew out all his original Pac-Man ideas.
Oh, fun.
And it's just really cool to see photos of it drawn out on grid paper, like accounting for all the pixels and everything. And it's interesting to see ultimately like a pretty fully formed idea in his head on paper come to life as, one of the most iconic video games ever made. So that's my get a load of this. There'll be a link below, right, Hanson?
There is going to be a link below.
Look at.
That sounds cool. Hey, get a load of this. I'm a sucker for anybody who's like focused on a specific beat, like reporters in particular. And there's a ProPublica reporter named Abram Lustgarten, who's just been focusing on like the water crisis and specifically in like the American West. And so he was on a recent episode of Fresh Air. You can get that podcast version of Fresh Air. But he was on 7 years ago talking about like, the American West is running out of water and no one's talking about it. And this is really scary. Jacob, you know a thing or two about this. And then like his most recent video. But then he was on Fresh Air again this month and was like, really though, we're really running out of water and no one's talking about it. And like, we've written 1,000 scientific papers and no one seems to care. And I don't know what we're supposed to do here. But he was talking about the Colorado River in particular and how so much of that water is being used for like growing alfalfa, which is then used to feed cattle. And so he had this factoid where like the Colorado River is doomed. It's just draining so fast and water is being diverted 1,000 different ways. But he said that like crunching the numbers, we'll have to take his word for it, but the crunching the numbers, if Americans skipped eating meat one day, it would cut down the usage of water in the Colorado River by 50%. Like, wow. Isn't that a wild factoid?
It's hard. Sometimes I resist talking about, it's like the individual action of like everyone takes shorter showers.
Right. Yes.
Whatever is kind of meaningless. But it's like meat uses so much freaking water that it's like, yeah, if you just don't eat a burger instead of eating a burger, it's like months of not showering. And so it is really significant.
It's so weird. At some point, this is when everyone's going to get on a high horse and be like, oh, MinnMax is just a green party outlet. But like at some point, like I do think it'd be interesting to like take the deepest dive into like water usage. Like I do think it's like, Jacob, I know that's basically what your life has been like over the last couple months of putting that video together, right?
Well, I mean, it was just, I didn't talk too much about water.
It is a component.
Look, I would do it.
I know.
I want to learn more.
Yeah. All right,
it's like a Super Mario Sunshine deepest time? Is that like...
Yeah, did I say that? That's what I meant.
You don't contextualize around video games. I get confused.
But Jacob, what do you got?
Okay, I have something not important at all. We've all seen various food crime videos of like, I made a cotton candy burrito or something. But this is a video of a woman making essentially a ramen crunch wrap, but it's the beginning says, "Ask my roommate to make a voiceover for this cooking video," and it's just the roommate like exhausted, being like, I don't know why she does this every time with the ramen. She keeps like making these things, and it's just very funny. I just laughed out loud while watching it and was like, well, that deserves to get a load of this.
All right, link below, everybody. Janet, what do you got?
Get a load of this. This is a thread that I came across some time ago, but I don't think I shared on here. It's a thread of the 50 most beautiful sports venues in the world, and they're just talking about like things that are pretty to look at. It's just gorgeous to see these, and like I would love to visit some of these because I just love what they've done with like the areas, and it's not always all urban either. They have one that's like in the middle of this forest. Like there's just some really stunning vistas of it, and a couple too that might be a little more achievable for people. Like Rose Bowl in Pasadena is on that list.
Sure.
Things cool. Like that. But yeah, check it out. I think they have some pretty cool environments here.
Right on. Links below. Also, thank you to folks in the MinnMax community in the Discord. They're sharing stuff in the channel all the time. There's fun little factoids. Leafeon shared this, which, God, I guess I was busy yesterday. I didn't see this news right when it broke, but I caught it in the evening. I was like, wait, what? That apparently Meta, our dear friends over at Facebook, they bought Twisted Pixel, who you know from the Explosion Man series. Kyle, did you know this?
I thought they already owned
Maybe they did, and it's just lumping in now. So like, okay. I missed it if they did buy it, or I didn't remember it. Also, they bought Armature, who did Resident Evil VR, but then, that studio has a lot of leads that came from Retro. It's like former developers. The director of Metroid Prime, the producer of Metroid Prime, a lot of the old Retro folks, they're at Armature, and now they're a Facebook studio. And the last one is Camouflage, who made Republique and Iron Man VR.
Iron Man?
They're now a Meta company. And, it's interesting just because we had Ryan Payton from that studio, the founder of that studio. We interviewed him on MinnMax's channel 7 months ago and talked to him about just what it's like being a mid-sized indie developer and how many acquisition offers come their way over and over again. So it kind of broke my heart a little bit. Like, I understand these.
You're like, Meta's the one we're taking.
I know. It's sad. I understand if there's a big paycheck and it's tough out there being an indie developer. So if you can keep the teams together, that's great. But still, every one of these studios selling out, man, it really breaks my heart. It's like, that's one less person that's easy to reach out to for an interview now. All right. It's kind of like, I guess, my perspective on it. But, this is me reading too much into it. And congratulations. I'm happy the team will be safe for a while moving into the future. But like, it's interesting that like Ryan Payton on Twitter, he didn't like announce it. And I don't know, this is me reading into it too much, but I think there's some like shame associated with Meta and Facebook. So he just like shared a link to the company blog where they announced it. And he just said some big news here. And then another tweet where he just says, thank you guys, but like no specific mention of like the fact that they sold or where they sold to. Kyle, am I reading into it too much? Or do you think that's a little bit of like, I can't announce that Facebook just gave me a bunch of money. That sucks.
I mean, I think there's a like half and half sort of, right? I think you're reading into it a little bit too much. I mean, I don't know how much Peyton uses Twitter. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's, maybe not. Like that's not the thing that defines him, right? It's probably his company and who owns it and stuff like that. Where in some cases, I've been guilty of it too. Like sharing details about jobs is very personally defining, and stuff like that. So.
He did change his Twitter name to Ryan Paidon, which I think is in poor taste.
That's what I would do if I had a big check from Facebook. Are you kidding?
Name me whatever you want,
looking
Facebook.
the same to the show.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching or listening to this episode of the MinnMax Show podcast. We do have plenty of stuff going on. Party Chat, which is our bonus podcast airing every single Monday, which, by the way, if you're at that MinnMax Council level tier, you can literally podcast with us every Monday. That's an option for you, everybody. But in this week's episode of the show, we had a bunch of folks from the community defending Overwatch 2, talking about what a good time they're having with it. We talk about extra life plans, and we talk about something which might be relevant to y'all, which is our upcoming strategy for ads on the MinnMax Show podcast. Full disclosure, we signed on with a podcast ad network, so rolling throughout October. Not necessarily you'll hear more ads on the podcast, but slightly different ads might be a better way to put it. But i8bit's sticking with us in a big bad way because they're very sweet and we're happy for that. But if you really want to dive in the weeds on what it's like communicating with a podcast ad network and what that's like behind the scenes, this week's episode of Party Chat, I think, is for you. Janet joins me on that one. It's just a good chat with the community about what they do and they don't want from ads on the podcast, which I think was helpful and hopefully fun, because it was so transparent. Also, we have Trivia Tower All-Stars happening this Monday, everybody. Monday, October 17th at 8 p.m. Central. This is the biggest crossover event in games media history. We have a ton of people competing, 24, I would argue, in fact. And they're all competing for the big charity prize pool, which you can contribute to if you go to gofundme.com/Trivia Tower. There's a link below for this stuff. But you can donate to that charity prize pool, and then whoever wins Trivia Tower, 100% of all that money will go to the charity of their choice. So donate and then cross your fingers and hope that the person going and pulling for your charity ends up winning. So it should be a fun time. So please check that out. Any help sharing that's appreciated. Also, a reminder for all the cool people that stuck around for the podcast this long, that we have a community meetup happening very soon, October 21st. In Minneapolis, everybody, October 21st, that Friday. If you are a member of the MinnMax community, by that I mean if you listen to the podcast, realistically, you don't have to be a Patreon supporter to get in or anything like that. So swing on by. We're going to be at Utepils Brewing, Utepils, Utepils Brewing. We're going to be there at 7 p.m. Central, of course. So if you're in the Minneapolis area, come by, say hi. We'd love to hear from you, see you in person, thank you in person, all that fun stuff. It'll be a wonderful little quiet evening. All right, Jacob, Janet, Kyle, y'all feeling good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. We appreciate y'all being here, and thanks everybody specifically at the $50 tier, the Game Champion tier. I'm talking about people like E.N.T. Clark, who's officially the Game Champion of Dying Light 2's DLC, Blood Ties. Hell yeah, E.N.T. Clark. Pretty Good Printing is officially the champion of PT. No one had claimed PT yet. Excellent pick. Patrick Polk, speaking of excellent pick, is picking Bayonetta 3. Getting ahead of the game, these folks. Very smart. Kyle Silva, again, is the champion of Streetpass Plaza on Nintendo 3DS. Clemens Zobel chose Call of Cthulhu, Dark Corners of the Earth. You are officially the champion, Clemens Zobel. Congratulations. All right, thanks so much, everybody. We'll see you next week. Be good, have fun, let's go.